Chapter 856. Emperor. From the Milky Way, there was a cry of pain, because all the cultivators of the Xinyuan Empire in this Milky Way battlefield respected Emperor Xinyuan. At this moment, Emperor Xinyuan's head fell, and he died. The world barrier of the primordial god world lost most of its luster. Everyone felt that they had no place to put their faith. They had already sensed Emperor Xinyuan's death. Whoosh, the national treasure astrolabe, immortal sword, suddenly attacked Su Fong, who was behind Emperor Xinyuan. Astrolabe, immortal sword, are you sure? It was a close-range attack that Su Fong could not dodge. Once he was hit, Su Fong would not be able to survive. Swish! But then Su Fong shook his arm. The astrolabe, immortal sword, actually stopped half a meter away from Su Fong. The sword chi could not be controlled and dispersed, leaving sword marks everywhere. So, the reason why the astrolabe, immortal sword, stopped in front of Su Fong was because Su Fong was holding Emperor Xinyuan's head in his left hand, and it was hanging 1 meter away from the astrolabe, immortal sword. Su Fong looked at the astrolabe, immortal sword, and shouted, "This is your master. I know you won't hurt it. Also, I have to tell you, everything your master has, I also have. You won't understand, but with this head, you can't hurt me." Despicable human. The astrolabe, immortal sword's sword chi had to be suppressed. Su Fong grabbed Emperor Xinyuan's head and absorbed the headless body into his body, maintaining a stalemate with the astrolabe, immortal sword. The astrolabe, immortal sword, was always looking for an opportunity to kill Su Fong and avenge Emperor Xinyuan. It would also complete its mission as the guardian of the primordial god world. But because of the human head astrolabe, immortal sword, it couldn't attack. Su Fong released the unparalleled heavenly demon disintegration seal, allowing a large amount of his consciousness to escape into the void. He then released his vast magic power, causing a whistling sound to ring out in front of the galaxy. The primordial god world's strongest expert, the primordial god emperor, also known as the primordial god world master, has been killed by me, Su Fong. His head is in my hands. I advise you all to stop wasting your lives for nothing and become the immortals' lackeys and chess pieces. The immortals can leave at any time they wish. To the Xinyuan Empire, this vast sound was like a landslide. At this moment, the entire primordial god realm began to tremble. And in the midst of the slaughter, the powerhouses from the Renhuang world heard this, and their spirits were greatly roused. They desperately used their most powerful strength to fight their way into the primordial god world and meet up with Su Fong. Why aren't you scramming? At this moment, Su Fong released a fierce divine light that swept across the thousands of experts who came to rescue Su Fong. Their bodies trembled, but no one dared to make a sound. Before the war began, Su Fong had fought his way into the galaxy alone. Until now, the power and strength he had displayed had already deeply shocked the primordial god world. Astrolabe, immortal sword. Su Fong did not immediately help the powerhouses deal with the immortals. It was not that he did not want to go. It was that he could not leave. The national treasure, the astrolabe, immortal sword, was not even half a step away, ready to attack at any moment. Su Fong had no choice but to use his head to maintain a stalemate. But at this moment, Su Fong smiled strangely and grabbed a white skull with his right hand. In an instant, a bloody light burst out from Su Fong's body, accompanied by abundant power from the Xinyuan Empire. As for Su Fong, he was burning the primordial god world's emperor chi and the world's essence. He was the powerhouse of the primordial god world. Su Fong grabbed a streak of blood-red light and pointed it at the stellar platter immortal sword. You can sense it, right? This is the origin god emperor's blood. It is everything in the origin god world, and I've seized his body. My body contains his power, the power of a small world, and even his blood essence, aura. How come I'm not your master? Your mission is to protect the origin god world, while I now possess the power of a world and control an astonishing amount of its essence. The astrolabe, immortal sword, sensed an extremely familiar aura from Su Fong. It was as if he was breathing with its sword chi. It was not the only one. Su Fong was the same. After devouring Emperor Xinyuan, He could already control a lot of the world's essence and the Xinyuan Empire's most essential national power. To the astrolabe immortal sword, this was just a cultivator who had changed his appearance, but was still the master of the primordial god world. Pa! Su Fong suddenly flashed and turned into a figure of starlight. He came to the side of the astrolabe immortal sword and grabbed the sword's hilt with his right hand. Buzz! The immortal sword struggled, but when Su Fong poured his power into it, it calmed down in just 3 breaths. Su Fong shouted, "Very good, very good. My power is the power of the primordial god world. You have to see the situation clearly and help me kill the immortals. This is your mission. As for the primordial god world, it's still the primordial god world of the past. If you don't listen, I really don't have the means to deal with you." The sword spirit said, "My mission is to protect the primordial god world and the Jing family. Promise me that you won't kill the Jing family." "That's fine. Do you think I'm still a homicidal maniac? All right, I'll secretly absorb the primordial god world's power and bring you along to kill the immortals. Let's go." Countless experts from the primordial god world surrounded them. Su Fong threw Emperor Xinyuan to the center of the group of experts and stepped on the astrolabe immortal sword to fly to the center of the battlefield. "That's our national weapon. Why is our national weapon willing to submit?" Su Fong, who was standing on the astrolabe immortal sword, shocked millions of experts. The countless cultivators of the Xinyuan Empire could only watch as their familiar nation armament was controlled by an outsider, a cultivator who had killed the Xinyuan Emperor. How could they not be shocked? It was as if these experts had sunk into the depths of the icy Milky Way as the primordial god world's light disappeared. Boom, boom, boom. In less than 3 breaths. At the center of the battlefield, Su Fong, who was riding the astrolabe immortal sword, encountered a series of explosions. He looked up and saw the undying tortoise fighting with immortal master Lung Exion's Tao artifact. The undying tortoise was injured, but it wasn't serious. Not far away, Bai Ling and Jing Suifeng were locked in a fierce battle. The chaotic energy was protecting her, and with the celestial neck spirit ring protecting her, Jing Suifeng couldn't completely suppress the chaotic energy. Even with the Tao artifact attacking the celestial neck spirit ring, he couldn't threaten Bai Ling's life. Su Fong immediately flew to another large battlefield. He saw the sky-piercing venerable monster, Vermilion Emperor, 9-segment Earth Dragon, 9-headed Fiend King, Brute Force Fiend King, and the other big goblin. They were working together with the Lord of 5 Poisons and the other big shots to deal with the demonic immortal and the puppets. Whether it was the big shots or the big goblin, they were all more seriously injured than the undying tortoise. Fortunately, they had killed 1 demonic immortal and heavily injured 2. As for the 4 immortal puppets, they had also killed 2. Su Fong activated the astrolabe immortal sword, and the sword light illuminated the battlefield. "Everyone, let's kill the demonic immortal and the puppets first, then we'll work together to deal with the 2 immortals." "Master!" Everyone's morale was greatly boosted when they saw Su Fong. Su Fong immediately looked at the 2 immortal puppets. They were currently being surrounded by the Lord of 5 Poisons, Li Ziqing, Su Jinhua, and Li Haojia. No matter how strong the 4 of them were, they had worked together to deal with the 4 immortal puppets. It had not been easy for them to kill 2 of them. Now they were all exhausted. Whoosh! The astrolabe immortal sword once again released its shocking light and speed. Boom! The sword was too fast. In the blink of an eye, it hit one of the puppets and created a bloody hole in its head. The puppets were not alive. They did not die even after a bloody hole. The other experts also threw out their Tao artifacts. Taking advantage of the fact that the puppet had lost most of its ability to move, they immediately turned it into meat paste. Only 1 puppet remained. "Everyone, go deal with the 2 heavily injured demonic immortals." Su Fong held the starry daylight sword and threw out a talisman to everyone. They were all full of power. Tut tut tut. The remaining puppet was also riddled with injuries. However, puppets didn't know pain, so what did these minor injuries matter? It unleashed a 30,000-meter-long immortal flame fist technique that was truly terrifying and seemed intent on burying both Su Fong and Xinghe. From this, it could be seen how difficult it was for the Lord of Five Poisons and the others to work together to deal with the four immortal puppets. They had definitely experienced an unprecedented battle of life and death. Su Fong was unable to deal with the immortal puppets. In truth, he didn't need to do anything himself. The astrolabe, immortal sword, slashed at the fiery river of immortal light. It was like a river of stars had exploded when it collided with the river of immortal light. A large number of black holes and cracks appeared. Sizzle. The immortal sword shattered the immortal light's power step by step. Su Fong was using the primordial god world's power as well as his own mysterious ability to increase the astrolabe, immortal sword's power. But the puppets were immortals after all. Although their attacks were simple, they were powerful. However, there was a limit to the power of a puppet. It was the controller of the puppet who infused the puppet with magic power and immortal energy. If the puppet continued to fight without any magic power, it would be exhausted just like a cultivator. The astrolabe, immortal sword, kept attacking the puppets. It was really unstoppable. Su Fong's eyes lit up. It's all thanks to the sect master and the others. If they hadn't fought so hard with the puppets and consumed their combat power, I wouldn't have been able to take control of the situation in such a short time. Poof! He shattered the puppet's attack. The sword hit the puppet's body fiercely and slashed it into a pile of mud. The four puppets had completely fallen here. This was not Su Fong's credit, but the result of the powerhouses fighting with their lives. He turned around and rode the astrolabe, immortal sword, to the other side of the starry sky. When he arrived, more than a dozen magic treasures were wildly bombarding the two immortal monsters. Miserable. It was extremely miserable. Unfortunately, one of the three immortal monsters was killed. The remaining two could be suppressed now, but it was useless because Immortal Master Lung Xin and Jing Sui Feng were shackling the wills of the immortal monsters. Even if they were captured alive, the two immortals would instantly kill the two big goblin immortals. Otherwise, Su Fong could find a way to suppress them. After all, he and Li Haojia were both demon-suppressing experts. There was no need for Su Fong to do anything. Now, there were more than a dozen Dao artifacts besieging the two injured immortal monsters. There would be no accidents. Boom, boom. Two consecutive explosions. One Dao treasure after another smashed the two demon immortals into a bloody mist. Their corpses were scattered everywhere. The Vermilion Emperor, the nine-section Earth Dragon, the sky-piercing venerable monster, the nine-headed Demon King, the Black Ridge Demon King, and the Brute Force Demon King snatched the pieces and devoured them. This was the flesh of an immortal monster. It was very nutritious. The immortal monster's body was huge. There was blood and minced meat everywhere. Su Fong also used his supreme power to gather all the blood and gave it to the big goblin to devour. The last two immortals, Green Feather King, the Lord of Five Poisons, Li Ziqing, Li Haojia, Su Jinhua, Qin Yuan Ho, and Sacred Monarch Wang Zhao in human form, came to Su Fong's side one by one. After a while, the big goblin also came. More than a dozen peerless experts with Dao artifacts followed Su Fong on the astrolabe immortal sword and went to the Star River in front of them. Unexpected, Jing Sui Feng, who was fighting with Bai Ling, suddenly flashed out of the battle. He was surprised to see Su Fong and the others besieging him. Even in a great world, three immortal monsters and four puppets are not ordinary forces. Your days are over. Bai Ling went to the back to prevent Jing Sui Feng from escaping. Chapter 857. Bai Ling released the power of chaos and blocked Jing Sui Feng's back. Even Jing Sui Feng was scared out of his wits. If he was an immortal with boundless dermic powers, he could have killed Bai Ling a long time ago. However, after fighting with Bai Ling for countless rounds, he did not gain the upper hand in the end. Jing Sui Feng hurriedly waved to the galaxy on the other side. Brother Lung, come over. Let's kill these cultivators together. In the galaxy, the undying turtle was entangled with immortal master Lung Xin. It used its Dao artifact dual sabers, and immortal master Lung Xin could not suppress the undying turtle. He shouted at Jing Sui Feng. It's not good to fight again today. Brother Feng, let's retreat first. We'll come back another day. Whoosh! Then he turned around and released immortal light clones, flying into the distant galaxy. Damn it! Just you wait. Jing Suifeng did not expect Immortal Master Long Xin to leave so suddenly. He probably felt that he did not look at the almanac today. He joined forces with Immortal Master Lung Xin in the small world, but they could not kill mortals. The demon immortals and puppets they brought were all killed. How unlucky. He quickly fled. Immortal light clones were also released from Jing Suifeng's hands. As expected of an immortal, he could use mystical abilities at will. Moreover, each of the immortal light clones had the strength of 3 heavenly calamities. Boom, boom, boom. Bai Ling was forced by several immortal light clones. The power of chaos formed around her like a hurricane. It instantly shattered one of the clones, and the other clones crushed the power of chaos. Jing Suifeng had already passed Bai Ling and flew toward Immortal Master Lung Xin. He even abandoned the primordial god world floating in the distant galaxy. The immortal has escaped. In the middle of the battlefield, countless experts from the mortal emperor world raised their arms and shouted, "Oomph! What are you so proud of? I'm an immortal." Jing Suifeng rushed in the galaxy, looking a little embarrassed. Lung Xin glanced at him from the corner of his eyes. "When Brother Lung and I find the galaxy and recover, we will prepare well and refine a large number of mystical ability clones. When the time comes, we will kill these ants with Tao artifacts. If it was not for the fact that the small world has no immortal spirit chi, and the immortals cannot recover their strength, I would have used my true power and killed you all. I know that these people are so difficult to deal with. I'm afraid you won't have the chance." An empty voice suddenly pierced through Jing Suifeng's surroundings. "Who is it?" A dignified immortal was actually so frightened that he trembled a few times. He sensed his surroundings, but did not find anyone. Su Feng's figure was actually condensed from the starlight in front of him, and it was incomparably huge. Jing Suifeng staggered and suddenly took out a shield-like Tao artifact. He grabbed it with his right hand, and it released a celestial light. He exclaimed, "It's you, kid. Impossible. Mortal cultivators can't appear in my galaxy without a sound. And how can you catch up with my speed?" Su Feng's giant shadow was 30 meters tall, but it was in an incorporeal state. However, it burst out with a sharp voice. "Jing Suifeng, you really don't have the guts. Su Feng, have overestimated you. Could it be that you don't want to take revenge for Jingbei Emperor Xinyuan, and your imperial descendants? They were all killed by me. You think I'm going to run away? You can think so, but don't be too arrogant. Wait until I condense my Dharma power and create a supreme immortal level technique. When I come back, I will skin you and the cultivators under your command and dig out their hearts. Then all the more I can't let you run away. That immortal master Lung Xin is cunning. He left first. I can't catch up with him. But you are different. You are an immortal of the Jing family. If you have the ability to kill this sovereign, then this sovereign would have killed that little demon a long time ago if she didn't have a peerless Tao artifact protecting her. What about you? That little heaven and earth immortal pot of yours should have already exhausted its immortal chi, right? You know that it is the small heaven and earth immortal pot. Of course I know. That is a common storage space Dharma treasure in a big world. Mortals will always be mortals. You are short-sighted. How can you know the importance of chi of a mortal and body of a mortal? You will regret it when you ascend. I will suppress you now. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Jing Suifeng suddenly looked behind him. More than 10 experts with Tao artifacts were crazily attacking him. His eyes revealed a bad feeling. His immortal body shook. He grabbed the shield-like Tao artifact with his right hand. A shocking aura rushed out from the Tao artifact. This aura came from the true power of the Tao artifact. Heaven-worshipping palm technique. As for the star giant Su Feng, he suddenly formed hand seals. The Milky Way figure struck out with 2 starlight palms. The shield Tao artifact's aura rushed out like a tiger, pouncing on its prey. It smashed into the starlight palms. without any suspense. The huge palms were completely shattered under the power of the Tao artifact. Jing Suifeng thought that he was going to be killed, but then he saw a figure appear in front of him. What kind of divine ability is this? Su Feng appeared with his real body this time. It is the supreme, profound of the ethereal enlightenment that you are looking for in the lower realm. It can allow me to surpass immortals in the Milky Way and achieve impossible miracles. For example, I can absorb energy in the Milky Way and control matter to fuse with divine abilities. Hee, you gave me time to catch up to you. The legend of the ethereal spiritual master about the ethereal enlightenment is indeed true. Human Emperor, oh human Emperor, you are a genius of your generation. You really do have some skills. If you have such divine abilities, how do you know that immortals using Tao artifacts are different from mortals using Tao artifacts? Brat, you won't be so lucky this time. What ethereal enlightenment? If those immortals didn't want it, I wouldn't treat it as a treasure. Any low-level power is no match for the power of a high-level world. He attacked again. He used all his strength to activate the Tao artifact. At the same time, the shockwave released by the Tao artifact burned, and a large number of black holes appeared. What a terrifying power. It seemed that if Jing Suifeng was just a bit stronger, he would be able to create a shocking black hole in the Milky Way. Good. That battle with the Origin God Emperor was my limit. Now that my strength has increased, I want to see how much of a difference there is between us. Great giant diamond body. Su Feng didn't choose to dodge this kind of attack. He took a step forward. A golden aura began to spread out. Then, golden runes burst out from his meridians, flesh, and even his hair. His body emitted blood qi, and then he began to grow bigger. After a breath, Su Feng turned into a 3-zhang tall giant. His skin was golden, and even his head turned golden. Jing Suifeng was startled at first, but he didn't forget that he was an immortal. He sped up his attack. Evil cultivation techniques are useless. Herculean divine palm. Shwa, the gigantic Su Feng swung his arms, and his body arched like a bow. He punched the void with his fists, one palm strike after another. Immediately, in the space between him and Jing Suifeng, many golden divine power palm prints appeared and pounced on Jing Suifeng one after another. It's useless. Jing Suifeng raised his eyebrows, and his killing intent turned into a terrifying aura. The Tao artifact hit one of the golden palms. The palms first shook and then shattered. Jing Suifeng was shocked. It seemed that he didn't expect that a lower realm divine ability could block the attack of a Tao artifact. Boom, boom, boom. Next, he blocked the golden palms in front of Su Feng. One by one, the palms were shattered by the Tao artifact's aura. Jing Suifeng also used up a lot of his immortal aura. Seems like after shattering the last palms, Jing Suifeng used up all his strength. He used all his strength to attack the Tao artifact that wasn't as powerful as before. Papa, the gigantic Su Feng didn't retreat or dodge at all. He cleaved his arms agilely and swiftly and hit the Tao artifact that was coming at him. He used both his hands to block the Tao artifact. Jing Suifeng bared his teeth at this moment. He probably never had the thought of killing someone so much. The Tao artifact and the immortal's strength pressed down on the gigantic Su Feng, and his bones seemed to be shattered. Jing Suifeng was shocked. What kind of physical body do you have? Even the big goblin under you can't use their physical bodies to fight against the Tao artifact. He was right. Among the big goblin, only the undying turtle could fight against the Tao artifact directly. No, the undying turtle could only use its shell to fight against the Tao artifact. Its body probably couldn't do the same. Su Feng's arms started to tear. He, who was gigantic, felt that he didn't lose to a Tao artifact at this moment. It was just that the Tao artifact and the immortal strength were really terrifying. Heavenly Neck Spirit Ring. Go! Gritting his teeth, Su Feng watched his arms being torn apart by the Tao artifact. He persisted. Suddenly, a white figure flew over from above and flicked his finger. A familiar circle attacked Jing Suifeng from the starlight. Seeing this, Su Feng used his 5 fingers again, and his body was like a bow. He used his mortal body to fight against a Tao artifact and an immortal in the Milky Way without using a Tao artifact or Dharma treasure, which mortal cultivator could see through countless small worlds. He was just an Ascension Realm cultivator. Boom! After a breath, the circle moved at lightning speed. Jing Suifeng didn't have time to react before his head was hit. Then his body turned into a cloud of blood mist. He didn't even have a chance to moan or struggle. He was in the hands of the little demon from a mortal world that he once ignored. Bai Ling didn't activate the heavenly neck spirit circle because she was waiting for an opportunity. Just in time, Sister Bai. Su Fong was so tired that he took 3 steps back. Then, his giant body gradually lost its golden light and returned to its normal state. He took another 3 steps back before finally stabilizing himself. However, more than half of his head was pale. Clearly, activating the giant diamond body had consumed a large amount of his life force. The other experts also rushed over. The undying turtle looked into the sky. There's another immortal. Su Fong recovered and regrouped with everyone. That person fled too quickly. Fortunately, he's not from the Origin God Imperial family and only came to the lower realm to deal with me. He's not a threat to anyone. I think he only has one choice now, which is to return to the outside world. I hope he can still arrogantly come back. He turned around. We still have the most important thing to do, which is to stop the war. Everyone go back. Some of you will kill your way into the Origin God world, while the others will kill your way into the enemy's formation. Force them to give up resistance. Indeed, we can't let more people die here. Everyone go. The Lord of 5 Poisons nodded and took the lead to fly down to the battlefield. Only Green Feather King, Bai Ling, the Undying Turtle, Su Jinhua, and Li Haojie were left. They slowly flew behind. Green Feather King looked at Su Fong and said with concern, "That kid is fine. I used the giant diamond body, so there's no problem. I just used up a lot of my life force like before. I'll need some time to recover." Su Fong told everyone not to worry, and he gradually increased his speed. He and Bai Ling flew back to the Origin God world, while the others released their Tao artifacts outside the battlefield. That kid, a great perfection physical body. No, it looks like a great perfection physical body, but there's a divine might in his body that can restrain Jing Suifeng's power and the Tao artifact's immortal light. Good. This kid's entire body is a treasure. For example, his giant diamond body can directly resist Tao artifacts as the Ascendant Transformation Realm cultivator. If an immortal had such a giant diamond body, wouldn't they be able to dominate the outside world? Although we didn't obtain the ethereal, true explanation left behind by the human sovereign, we've still done a meritorious deed. With such a divine ability, we can report it to our superiors. Tian, Jingbei Wang, and Jing Suifeng, you can only blame yourselves for being unlucky. In the distant astral river, Immortal Master Lung Xian was hiding in a meteor, watching as Jing Suifeng was killed without any aura. Suddenly, with a smug smile, he disappeared into the astral river. Chapter 858. The astral river battlefield in front of the primordial god world gradually calmed down. The 6 big goblin kings led all kinds of big goblin kings to guard the defeated troops from the Xinyuan Empire and return to the primordial god world. Li Ziqing, King Green Feather, the Lord of 5 Poisons, Su Jinhua, and other big shots were guarding both inside and outside the barrier. Most of the cultivators who gave up resisting were from the Xinyuan Empire, and they were returning from the surrounding astral river. There were about 100,000 cultivators from the immortal primordial realm who survived and returned to the primordial god world. The Emperor and immortals were killed in front of these people. Their psychological defenses had long collapsed. Now you know how powerful I am. If I hadn't promised the Astrolabe immortal sword, I wouldn't have let you go. Xinyuan Empire. Above the imperial city of the great emperor, Su Fong, under the protection of Bai Ling, used the power of the supreme divine emperor scripture to create a formation. More than 100,000 members of the Jing family had resisted him since he entered the primordial god world. However, he easily used his world power to suppress them, forming a familiar giant barrier above the imperial city trapping hundreds of thousands of cultivators of the Jing family. There were about 1 million people in the imperial city, but there were very few elites. Of course, the imperial family also had hidden forces, but even the astrolabe immortal sword was taken by Su Fong, so these hidden forces were no longer a threat. The Jing family had no choice but to submit under the leadership of some hermits. They couldn't lose their immortals, emperor, and a large number of experts, and still fight Su Fong recklessly. If they really did that, there would only be one outcome. None of the members of the Jing family would be left alive. Su Fong let Qin Yuanhou and Sacred King Guangzhou appear, and they brought many experts with them. They also received the rune talismans formed by Su Fong. He looked at the countless cultivators of the imperial family below. This imperial city still belongs to the Jing family. I'll send people to guard outside. You have to get permission to leave the city in the future. Whoosh! Qin Yuanhou and Sacred King Guangzhou, 2 experts from the primordial god world in the past, activated the rune talismans and started to create a new barrier outside the imperial city. The members of the Jing family were relieved. Everyone was worried that Su Fong would really slaughter them, and they wouldn't be able to resist. Qin Yuanhou and Sacred King Guangzhou not only had freedom under Su Fong, but they were also even stronger than before. Su Fong was Su Fong. At least, if they chose to submit, they didn't have to be slaves for Su Fong. At least, if they chose to submit, they didn't have to be slaves for Su Fong. With all of these thoughts of their thoughts, God Emperor, after a few breaths of time, they arrived at a majestic plateau far away from the Xinyuan Empire. Using a supreme seal, a barrier quickly covered the plateau, forming a vast barrier that covered the ground and the sky. Heaven realm 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 realm. After that, Su Fong entered the formation and began to absorb the world essence of the primordial god world. He seized the time to merge with the primordial god world. Who would have thought that the world fragment outside the primordial god world would be able to absorb the power of the world barrier? My ability to dominate the galaxy has increased tenfold. I'm definitely stronger than Emperor Xinyuan and on par with immortals like Jing Suifeng. If it weren't for the transformation, I wouldn't have been able to catch up with Jing Suifeng and kill Emperor Xinyuan in one move. During cultivation, Su Fong absorbed the world essence at an indescribable speed. There was a vast power roaring in his body at all times. It was 100 times faster than when he merged with the Beichen Zone and Wutan realm. All of this was due to the power of the world flowing into his body. The source was the world fragment golden lotus stone flower in his 13 yang meridians. The golden lotus stone flower spun within the 5 layers of starlight, wildly absorbing the world essence within Su Fong's body. It swallowed as much as it could, causing Su Fong to believe that even the strength of the primordial god world would be sucked into it. The transformation of the world fragment didn't just speed up his cultivation of world energy. It also increased Su Fong's ability to control the world and display his power in the galaxy by tenfold. For some reason, when he used the world fragment to release his power, the galaxy had a feeling that it had merged with Su Fong, as if he was a celestial being. If he cultivated inside the world fragment, he would be able to reach the level of a celestial being. Su Fong believed that this was all because of the world fragment. The world fragment had absorbed a large amount of the world's essence and released its power, allowing him to travel in the astral river. His speed, will, senses, divine might, and strength were 10 times greater than his own, or perhaps even more terrifying. When he killed Emperor Xinyuan and appeared in his domain, Su Fong hadn't been discovered. That was because he had stimulated the world fragment, allowing him to perfectly fuse with Emperor Xinyuan's aura. The reason he had been able to pass through Bai Ling and the Undying Tortoise and catch up to Jing Suifeng without anyone noticing was also because he had stimulated the world fragment. The Golden Lotus Stone Flower's transformation is too timely. Without it, I don't know how difficult it would be for me to fuse the 5 small worlds at the same time. But now, it's as easy as eating and drinking. I can also fuse with the 5 small worlds to the extreme. In a short time, Su Fong had reached the peak. Under Bai Ling's protection, he flew into the sky. The undying tortoise also flew over from afar. After releasing his aura, tribulation clouds immediately surged. I have to continue using the tribulation to attack the golden lotus stone flower and try to fuse with it as soon as possible. The undying tortoise had already transformed into its original body and was waiting for the tribulation. Su Fong took out the world fragment. When he looked up again, tribulation clouds were surging in the primordial god world sky. Breakthrough. He was going to break through from the 8th level of the Ascendant Transformation Realm to the 9th level of the Ascendant Transformation Realm. As he released the last of his aura, he released 2 thoughts. Sky-piercing demon venerable, 9-headed demon king, lead 10,000 big goblin and tens of thousands of strong cultivators to the Wu-Tan domain and the Beichen zone. Move the 2 small worlds to the immortal primordial domain. Elder Songhao, lead the troops to the immortal primordial domain. Ask the immortal primordial domain Lord to prepare to welcome the 3 great worlds. Elder Heizun, lead a group of strong cultivators to the mortal emperor domain. Move the mortal emperor domain to the immortal primordial domain. After he finished speaking, the strong cultivators responded one by one. As they continued to wait, they soon felt the primordial god world start to move. It was moving towards the immortal primordial domain. After communicating with the big shots, they had already arranged for all the strong cultivators from the Xinyuan Empire and the immortal primordial domain to be settled in the various territories of the primordial god world. As for the millions of corpses in the galaxy, Su Fong asked Li Hao to absorb the corpses into the elemental suppression and demonic transformation heavenly book. After extracting the power of the realms from the corpses, he would reward them to the big goblin. The Lord of 5 Poisons led the strong cultivators to guard the primordial god world. They deterred the generals and feudal lords from guarding the territories. They comforted the people and the various factions. According to the sect leaders' count, the primordial god world's 10 million cultivators had died in this battle. About 4 million were injured. It was a heavy loss. As for Su Fong's 500,000 strong cultivators, more than 100,000 of them had died. More than half of them were severely injured. The rest had different kinds of injuries. The price of victory was shocking. The Lord of 5 Poisons collected the corpses of the strong cultivators on his side and started to build a huge cemetery in the primordial god world. He placed 100,000 strong cultivators in the primordial god world. After understanding the situation, Su Fong asked the big shots to recuperate first. He also asked the strong cultivators under him to bring countless yang strengthening pills. After so many years in the mortal emperor domain, the yang strengthening pills that he had concocted finally came in handy. He even implanted immortal fruits and immortal energy into some yang strengthening pills. In the end, Su Fong did not have any immortal energy in his hands. He only had a small portion of immortal fruits left. Fortunately, he had obtained countless resources. He could concoct yang strengthening pills without restraint. TSK. He finally began to feel at ease. He released his aura completely. With a wave of his hand, the first heavenly tribulation was separated into 2 parts. One part entered the undying tortoise's body, while the other hit Su Fong's right hand. The power of the heavenly tribulation poured into Su Fong's body like a waterfall. It brought indescribable pain to his bones, meridians, and muscles. After attacking his whole body, Su Fong's purpose was to let the heavenly tribulation have its own blood energy. In the end, the bloody tribulation power hit the golden lotus stone flower like before. The 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 9th heavenly tribulations were all passed in the same way. Su Fong and the undying tortoise were using their bodies to resist the heavenly tribulation. When some mysterious power seeped in from the heavenly tribulation and absorbed the golden lotus stone flower, his physical body began to advance. The power of advancement attacked his internal organs, meridians, bones, and flesh. It did not leave a single corner untouched. After trembling, pain, and tearing, his physical body welcomed an amazing spiritual light. More than half of Su Fang's white hair receded. Less than 1/3 of his hair was still white. The 9th level of the immortal transformation realm. There is one more level, which is the 10th level of the immortal transformation realm. After that, I can break through to the immortal transformation realm. Now that part of it has merged with the world fragment, it can allow me to cultivate quickly in the Milky Way and small worlds. I think it will take me a few years to break through to the 10th level of the immortal transformation realm. Even if I step into the immortal transformation realm, it won't take me long to reach the 3rd level of the immortal transformation realm. After the advancement, the majestic spiritual energy of the primordial God world poured into his physical body. His physical body, which had reached the 9th level of the immortal transformation realm, began to become more profound. He needed a lot of energy. Now that he could activate the world fragment, the energy he absorbed was too shocking. If this continued, he would soon reach his normal state. Continuing, at the same time, he released the power of the complete realm to sense the entire primordial God world. As Su Fang's cultivation increased, the power of the complete realm also had an obvious transformation. It allowed him to sense every corner of the primordial God world. During this time, he found that some nobles secretly contacted the experts of the Jing family. They wanted to escape from the primordial God world and take away a lot of resources to encourage more forces. How could this be? He secretly sent a decree to the Marquis of Qin Yuanhou. He definitely could not tolerate these forces. The primordial God world as a whole returned to normal. Order was in good order. Every force was guarded by experts from Su Fang. They controlled the laws and abolished most of the laws of the Xinyuan Empire. All of this was waiting for Su Fang to finish his cultivation so that he could establish new laws. In less than a year, Su Fang finished his cultivation. He had reached the 9th level of the immortal transformation realm. His strength was now a little stronger. If he used his current cultivation and used the giant diamond body to fight against Jing Suifeng's doctrine artifact again, not only could he block it again, but he could also fight it for a long time. However, there was still a long way to go before he could surpass doctrine artifacts and immortals. What Su Fang wanted to do was not to promulgate laws for the primordial God world. When he brought experts to the primordial God world outside the barrier, the immortal primordial realm was floating in front of him. To his left was the mortal emperor realm. There were already 3 small worlds floating close to the stars in this galaxy. As for the Beichen Zone and the Wutan realm, it would take a few more years for them to arrive. Su Fang released his supreme will into the minds of countless experts in the 3 small worlds. He ordered them to be obedient, especially in the primordial God world and the immortal primordial realm. Anyone who dared to cause trouble would die. Then, in the central galaxy of the 3 small worlds, Su Fang used the world fragment to establish a barrier that was tightly connected to the 3 small worlds. He sat cross-legged in it and let Su Jianhua, the Marquis of Qin Yuanhou, and the Sacred King of Broad Illumination bring some nobles and dukes who were willing to submit to the primordial God world to discuss the new laws. Chapter 859. Master, the Big Dipper Great Monarch, and the other 2 great monarchs were killed by the Vermilion Emperor Tong Tian Venerable Monster and the 9-headed Demon King during the intense battle. However, they did not manage to find the person you were looking for. Crown Prince Shui and the leader of the Tao Yi sect, Limitless, had also fallen. Everyone gathered in front of Su Fang. Qin Yuanhou bowed and said, "According to the experts around Great Emperor Dipper, Prince Shui came to the primordial God world a long time ago and was conferred the title of heretical crown prince by the primordial God Emperor. Later, his cultivation reached the realm of 3 calamity realms in just a few years." Su Fang asked, "Prince Shui becoming the heretical crown prince is interesting. Can you confirm whether he's dead or alive?" "No one can say for sure. I also went to identify the corpse, but I didn't find Prince Shui. There's no need to look for him. This person's methods are astonishing. He obviously used the power of the primordial god world, as well as the help of immortals from the lower realms to break through the last great tribulation. He's probably already ascended to the great world. Su Fong waved his hand and looked at the dozens of people in front of him. Although they were hermits of the Xinyuan Empire's imperial family, they were willing to submit. Naturally, they could be used. During this period of time, you should properly formulate the laws. After that, I will reward you. At the same time, I will also persuade the imperial family to not make an enemy of me. Otherwise, if that day comes, I will slaughter the entire Jing family. As long as they don't cause trouble, they will always be part of the imperial family and enjoy privileges in the primordial god world. When the hermits heard this, they were excited. No one wanted their family to be slaughtered. They began to loyally formulate new laws for the primordial god world. Primordial god world's core. This time, Su Fong came alone. Because he had fused with the world fragment, his earth ability had already reached the level of Wooling Goblin. From the surface to the core, it only took him a dozen breaths. In the core, he was walking on flat ground. But when he came to the core, he was obviously affected. His speed could reach the undead realm. When he reached the core with Wooling Goblin speed, he still saw the core filled with origin power. There was no world fragment as he had imagined. He was quite disappointed, but it didn't affect him. A single world fragment had already caused him so much suffering that he was on the verge of becoming a madman. If he obtained a second world fragment, how was he supposed to cultivate? Even immortals would not be able to cultivate two world fragments at the same time. He used his divine art to create a 3-meter-tall hole in the core of the earth. He built a stone cauldron the size of a water basin and placed some fresh blood in it. He then created a clone of Wuji and started to activate the stone cauldron, slowly fusing it with the core of the earth. After doing all this, he returned to the immortal primordial world. Previously, he wasn't able to enter the core of the earth, but this time he could do it. Moreover, he didn't come alone. The immortal Grand Mist Realm Lord was with him. Within the core, Su Fong brought the immortal Grand Mist Realm Lord with him. Have you thought it through? Given your cultivation, you can already ascend. Do you want to ascend, or do you want to stay here? It's better for me to stay here and cultivate more of the world's energy. Only then will I be able to control the world's energy like master and go to a major world to become an immortal. I'm also an outstanding figure. I've decided to spend a long time here to continue cultivating. The immortal Grand Mist Realm Lord didn't feel threatened and calmly made his choice. Just be a good Realm Lord and fuse with the world's energy of the immortal primordial world with me. He immediately created 2 holes in the core of the earth. One was prepared for the immortal Grand Mist Realm Lord to fuse with himself. Su Fong continued to plant his clone and blood cauldron so that his fresh blood and energy could slowly fuse with the core of the earth. Finally, in the Mortal Emperor world. As soon as he entered the Mortal Emperor world, he saw the heavenly gourd spirit tree. There were more than 300,000 cultivator fruits hanging on it. They looked like fruits, but also like cocoons. So you're so strong. Su Fong communicated with the heavenly gourd spirit tree. The spirit tree said, "Thank you, Master, for giving me this treasure. With the help of the divine image, Jade Annulus, and the world's energy of the Mortal Emperor world, your subordinates will have been strengthened continuously. That's why my strength has increased by leaps and bounds. With your cultivation, you can also transform into a human form in the future and ascend to a major world. Of course, don't forget to bring more spiritual energy to the Mortal Emperor world." With that, he came to the core of the earth. Su Fong used the same method to plant his clone and blood cauldron. With this, the 3 minor worlds could finally fuse together. He returned to the Star River barrier at the center of the 3 minor worlds. Activating the golden lotus stone flower, he released his astonishing control over the Star River. At the same time, he absorbed the essence of the 3 minor worlds and began to walk the path of a true overlord of a minor world. Another period of time passed. The barrier at the center of the star field of the 3 minor worlds. The Lord of 5 Poisons, Green Feather Monarch, Li Ziqing, Su Jinhua, Li Haojia, Lan Haicheng, Xiao Mei Venerable Gu, and some other experts were cultivating below the barrier. Outside the barrier was the empty Star River. Su Fong was above everyone. While cultivating, he released the world's energy gathered by the world fragment for everyone to cultivate. This way, everyone could surpass most cultivators and absorb the world's energy first. Moreover, it was the world's essence that Su Fong had prepared for them. Only by possessing the world's energy could one be considered an expert. This was why realm lords were the most invincible existences in the minor worlds. Suddenly, Su Fong released a void vibration. Soon after, he was pleasantly surprised. His consciousness entered his body and came to the front of the yang vein. He saw that the 14th yang vein was forming. It turned out that another yang vein was successfully born. Timely, too timely, but also within my expectations. After fusing with the world fragment and absorbing a large amount of world's energy, my cultivation speed is also increasing. With a large amount of pure yang energy, the yang vein should be formed. Seeing that the 14th yang vein was successfully born, he was overjoyed. With an additional yang vein, Su Fong would be stronger. With the yang vein, the 9 transformations would be like a fish in water. His strength would soar. After a while, the 14th yang vein calmed down and fused with the previous yang vein. Next, he started to form the 15th yang vein. He believed that with the world fragment and the yin and yang energy, the 15th yang vein would be born in a short time. From now on, although Su Fong's cultivation of the yang vein was still difficult, it was much easier than before. The main thing was that he had an incomparable understanding of the yang vein and had experience in cultivating it. Just like this, Su Fong cultivated with everyone and charged towards a higher peak. Around 5 years, from the bright starry sky ahead, 2 minor worlds moved over. They were Wu Tan Domain and Beichen Zone. They had finally arrived. A few months later, the Beichen Zone and Wu Tan Domain arrived beside the 3 minor worlds. In this star field, 5 minor worlds suddenly formed a circle and floated together. They were separated by a certain amount of galaxies and were not too far away. Spectacular! In the records of the minor worlds, there were only 2 records of them merging in a galaxy. Who would have thought? Kid, you really did the impossible. In this part of the star field, you have 5 minor worlds and occupy one of them. You are now the overlord of the star field, surpassing the realm lord. Surpassing the realm lord is probably the overlord. At this moment, Su Fong was floating in the star field with thousands of experts. Seeing this shocking scene, every single powerhouse exclaimed in shock. Under the barrier of the 5 minor worlds, there were countless cultivators looking at the minor worlds nearby. Countless cultivators were trembling. This was a scene that couldn't possibly happen in reality, but it happened to be reality. Su Fong also began to spend energy to reform the barriers of the 5 minor worlds, allowing each of them to have the power of the other minor worlds. First, he expanded the barriers of the 5 minor worlds. Then, he connected the barriers of the 5 minor worlds together through the power of the void. He also asked for the help of experts to build a portal between the 5 minor worlds. As for Su Fong, he built a large number of world portals in this star field. Only the realm lords, their clansmen, and some other realm lords could control these portals. Many years later, everything ended. However, countless factions and realm lords came from all directions to congratulate him. The Lord of the 6 fertile lands, Yu Yingying, also came. When she saw the 5 minor worlds, she knew that Su Fong was no longer the same as before. Since it was an alliance, Su Fong treated the lords of the 6 fertile lands as one of his own. He also brought everyone from the Heaven Crossing sect. Many factions from the True Dragon realm and the Tianmong realm, which were closest to the immortal primordial realm, also came. The realm lords of these 2 worlds also specially met with Su Fong. These 2 worlds were near the primordial god realm and the immortal primordial realm. In the 2 wars, these 2 realm lords were not tempted. They helped the primordial god realm and the immortal primordial realm. They could be considered friends. More and more minor worlds came, such as the spiritual dust realm, the Tianfeng realm, and the immortal melody realm. For this, Su Fong specially asked people to welcome the experts of the Heaven-Burning Sword sect. They saw the sword sect master and some familiar faces. The last person he saw was his sister, Su Erkson, who he met in the immortal melody realm. Even Su Erkson was not used to seeing Su Fong again. The experts of the entire Heaven-Burning Sword sect, including the sect master, were like juniors in front of Su Fong. With Su Fong's current strength, he could completely dominate any faction in any minor world. He was the supreme ruler of a star field. Su Fong asked people to properly welcome the experts of the Heaven-Burning Sword sect. He came to the mortal emperor realm with Su Erkson and pointed to the heavenly gourd spirit tree. Su Erkson finally said, "Big brother, I didn't expect you to be such a person. When I heard that someone took over the immortal primordial realm, it was a cultivator called Su Fong. At that time, I wondered if it was someone with the same name. But after the experts of the sect sent people to investigate, we confirmed that it was you. This is nothing. I just persisted on my path of cultivation and came here step by step. All right, I have a gift for you. Back then, there was a great sect in the Wu-Tan realm called the Green Lotus Sword sect. After I took over the sword sect, I obtained a Peak King grade flying sword. With a wave of his hand, a green flying sword flew out of his palm. This was the treasure left behind by Taoist Master Qing Lian when he was in the depths of the Green Lotus Sword sect. After obtaining it, Su Fong thought of someone who would be suitable for it, and that was Su Erkson. Take it. You still need to speed up your cultivation, and I'm going to ascend to the outside world soon. I believe that you'll find your own way of the sword and bring glory to the Heaven-Burning Sword sect." Su Erkson felt that the sword was too precious, so she didn't want it at first. But in the end, Su Fong forcefully handed it over to her and repeatedly urged her to take it. In addition to the sword, Su Fong also gave her an immortal-class energy art that was suitable for her cultivation. Afterward, Su Erkson and the other cultivators of the Heaven-Burning Sword sect went sightseeing in the 5 minor worlds. The violet magical souls are in the hands of Huang Lingyao and 7-Star Child, she thought. When Immortal Master Lung Xin returns to the greater world, he'll definitely do everything in his power to deal with me. If he brings a large number of immortals with him, I'll definitely ascend to the greater world. Even if Immortal Master Lung Xin finds out I'm going to the greater world, he'll definitely come after me. That way, the 5 minor worlds won't be in any danger. In the only city in the mortal emperor world, in the most holy of palaces, currently, more than 1,000 experts were gathered there. Su Fong sat at the very top, and below him were King Greenfeather, the Lord of 5 Poisons, Li Ziqing, Li Haojia, Su Jinhua, Grand Elder Heizun, and other important people. There were also quite a few people from the immortal Grand Mist Realm Lord and the other minor worlds who were loyal to Su Fong. Chapter 860. Su Fong was thinking about his next step. Look, please move. On the surface, having 5 small worlds and becoming the overlord of this star river, he should be satisfied with the status quo and enjoy the life of a supreme ruler. Like an emperor, he should be the overlord of this place forever. But Su Fong's heart was higher than the sky. There was still a huge hidden danger on the other side. He had to make a choice as soon as possible to resolve the crisis and truly possess this star field. This was the reason why he gathered so many experts. Next, he wanted to choose experts to become the origin cultivators of the 5 small worlds. Like Su Jinhua, they had to change their surnames and be willing to become part of the family Su. Of course, not everyone had the chance. They had to be in the flying immortal realm. Su Fong let everyone spread the news to the 5 small worlds. If they were willing, they could change their surnames and join the family Su. They would become cultivators who could cultivate the origin of the 5 small worlds. What kind of potential was that? This could also be considered as recruiting experts. During this period, Su Fong first nurtured the cultivators who had followed him for a long time. For example, Wan Mo, Supreme Venerable Demon King, Mo Feng Jun, Zui Feng, Xiao Ling, Ping Yanjin, Gao Cheng, Wu Wei, and others. There were tens of thousands of people. Su Fong personally condensed the essence of the 5 small worlds in his body, turning them into seeds. He sent out tens of thousands of limitless clones, injecting the world essence into their Danteon. This way, the first batch of origin cultivators of the 5 small worlds was born. Next were some powerful experts like Exalted Cultivator Yu Zhen, Xuanjin Nun, Elder Zhang Feng, Jin Chong Kong, and others, condensing even more world essence for them. Finally, in addition to Green Feather King, Lord of 5 Poisons, Li Zaiqing, and Li Haojie, Su Feng injected even more world essence into Immortal Gu, Su Jinhua, First Elder Heizun, First Elder Red Lotus, and others. After completing all of this, Su Feng looked at the 5 Poison Sect leader. Senior, Immortal Master Lung Xin came to the lower realm mainly to obtain treasures from me, and 7 Star Child, who escaped last time, also came to the lower realm mainly for me. These immortals are still alive, and perhaps they will come to the lower realm to deal with me. Therefore, for the sake of the 5 great worlds, I must leave the small world as soon as possible. Before leaving, I must accompany Sister Bai to the Heavenly Dipper realm. Junior would like to ask the opinions of all the seniors here. The cult master was the first to nod. This cult master is going. Brother Fong, let's go together. Li Haojie nodded. This king is going. Green Feather King nodded. However, the others, including Li Ziqing, were all pondering. Ascension was not a small matter, and there were many things that needed to be prepared before Ascension. In reality, Ascension was also very dangerous. It was rumored that many people would die in the Great Worlds. If they did not prepare for a long time, they would not be able to return. Moreover, most of the cultivators here were at the 3 Calamity stage. Even if they wanted to go to the Great Worlds, it would take them several hundred years to pass the final tribulation. Normally, even at the 3 Calamity stage, they would need to cultivate in the small world for many years before they had the confidence to go to the Great Worlds. Everyone had to consider this matter carefully. Su Feng looked at Li Ziqing and the others. Actually, I don't want everyone to ascend so quickly. The 5 great worlds have only just established themselves in this star field. If everyone leaves, I don't feel comfortable leaving others in charge. Since everyone has their own ideas, you can stay here and cultivate. On one hand, you can strengthen yourselves and prepare for ascension in the future. On the other hand, you can protect the 5 great worlds and cultivate more origin experts. Just based on what we know, the tens of thousands of cultivators can only control one small world. We need hundreds of thousands of origin cultivators to work together to support this star field. Li Ziqing nodded solemnly. Little Fong, seeing that you have so many concerns, I was prepared to ascend with you. But now I'll stay. Su Zhan said from the bottom of his heart, Master, don't worry about us. You're not at the flying immortal realm yet. Bringing too many people to the great worlds will put a lot of pressure on you. Just let us protect the 5 great worlds and rely on ourselves to cultivate. Then we'll ascend to the great worlds and meet up with you. The Lord of 5 Poisons said majestically, I think everyone is the same. We'll ascend to the great worlds first. We have to get rid of the enemies that threaten us in the great worlds as soon as possible. This way, they won't be able to descend to the lower worlds and threaten the 5 great worlds. For example, the Jing royal family has a shocking foundation in the great worlds. If we don't destroy them in the great worlds, the small worlds will have endless troubles. Then it's decided. I'll go to the great worlds with the sect leader, Brother Li, and Peng King. After I purify a large number of experts into origin cultivators, we'll immediately leave the Heavenly Dipper realm and ascend to the great worlds. Finally, it was decided. Su Feng, Green Feather King, the Lord of 5 Poisons, and Li Ziqing would ascend to the great worlds first. Of course, there's also the Undying Turtle, Bai Ling, and the other big goblin. In the next few years, Su Feng was still condensing the world's power for Li Ziqing. Su Zhanhua, Venerable Gu, Su Yaotian, Lan Haicheng, Xiao Mei and the others. It was a pity that Xiao Mei and Lan Haicheng's cultivation were still some distance away from ascending. Otherwise, they could also ascend together with Su Feng. Su Feng went to see Xiao Mei alone a few times, but he was still indifferent. Xiao Mei-er's relationship with Xuanzhen Nun was not bad. It seemed that Xiao Mei-er really could not forget Zuan Pavilion, because in her current memory, her mind was filled with Zuan Pavilion and Su Fang's location. Lan Haicheng advised Su Fang several times not to be anxious and not to overreach himself. In the end, he could only let nature take its course. Gradually, experts from the Beichun Zone, Wu-Tan Domain, Immortal Primordial Domain, and Primordial God Domain voluntarily came to the mortal Emperor world. There were more and more people, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, hundreds of thousands. Among them, there were some young geniuses who were either in the Calamity Realm, Feather Realm, or Undying Realm. Hearing that Su Fang wanted to recruit Origin Realm cultivators, they came to the mortal Emperor world and tried their best to join Su Fang's sect. For the sake of the 5 great small worlds, Su Fang finally agreed. In less than 10 years, more than 800,000 cultivators gathered in the mortal Emperor world. In order to help Bai Ling solve the Heavenly Neck Spirit Ring as soon as possible and ascend to the great worlds, Su Fang ordered to stop the recruitment. With the supreme divine might of the world, nearly 1 million cultivators gathered in the Great World Array. Then, they continuously condensed world seeds that contained the 5 small worlds and inserted them into the aurous cores of the cultivators. At the same time, there was the power of the primordial spirit shackles. This way, they would become Family Su members and be shackled by the primordial spirit. They would not have to worry about betraying the 5 small worlds. Only then could Su Fang rest assured and let these people control the origin of the worlds. This time, Su Fang spent a lot of energy to plant world seeds for nearly 1 million people. Even immortals could not do this. If he did not fuse with the mysterious fragment, he would not be able to control such amazing divine might of the world. Among them were the evil forces of the 5 great worlds, such as the demonic Tao, the demon race, and the evil sect. These forces were very powerful. However, no matter how powerful they were, even if they had Tao artifacts and countless experts, how could they compete with Su Fang under Su Fang's control? Su Fang deliberately gave these forces an iron hand. If anyone dared to cause trouble in the future, they would be extinguished one by one, not leaving a single one alive. After a full 10 years, all of this finally came to an end. Nearly 1 million origin cultivators were under the control of the family Su. They were separated into 5 small worlds to cultivate. Li Ziqing, Su Jinhua, and the other big shots would be in charge of their cultivation and lead them to secretly control the various small worlds. It was time. Su Fang left behind several Tao artifacts collected from this war and gave them to Li Ziqing. In the following time, they would hand over the Tao artifacts to those experts who performed well and were loyal. For this, he also let the gourd spirit tree control his true foundation and left the divine image Jade Annulus in the mortal emperor world for the origin cultivators to cultivate and share the Tao artifacts. The gourd spirit tree was too powerful. It also had a Tao artifact and could use the power of the world. Its strength was at the same level as the undying tortoise. It was estimated that its combat strength would gradually surpass the undying tortoise. At the same time, he also left behind the instant space ring, the fire god elephant, the 13 fire crystal stone golems, and other magic treasures to his father, Su Yaodian, for the geniuses of the clan to fuse with them in the future. In addition, all the magic treasures he had collected in the small worlds over the years, such as the 6-eyed heaven-shaking bell, the dog-headed rotten wooden saber, and other magic treasures, there were estimated to be millions of them. There were also spirit stones, pills, and other resources, almost all of which were left in the 5 small worlds. The astrolabe immortal sword and the spirit camel immortal cauldron were also left in the origin god world. From now on, they were considered the strongest of the 5 small worlds. Only the resources from the large worlds were left behind. After dealing with all of this, without saying goodbye to the others, they silently left the 5 small worlds. Even if I leave the 5 small worlds, because they are constantly fusing with my bloodline, the next time I come back, I will probably be able to surpass any cultivator since ancient times and achieve a near-perfect fusion with the small worlds. It is equivalent to using my bloodline to condense the mountains, rivers, and earth. In the empty galaxy, a heavenly ship hurriedly sailed through the nebula. Unknowingly, more than 10 years had passed since they left the 5 small worlds. The Lord of 5 Poisons, Lihaugia, and Lord Greenfeather were cultivating in the heavenly ship. Outside the heavenly ship, Su Fong was sitting cross-legged on the heavenly ship, releasing endless stars. His aura was also shining with the luster of stars. He had already surpassed any cultivator or realm lord of the small worlds. In the past, Li Qianjua, Taoist Master Qing Lian, and the human emperor probably could not have achieved his current mastery of the galaxy in the small worlds. Only immortals could compare to him. All of this was a transformation brought about by the accidental fusion of the world fragment, the golden lotus stone flower. Without the world fragment, he would not be able to surpass any realm lord since ancient times and break the shackles of life in the small worlds. He could truly traverse the starry skies. He could no longer absorb any spirit chi, resources, pills, or food from the small worlds. With the world fragment, he could use the power of the stars as his energy source in the galaxy. Su Fong looked at the endless galaxy in front of him. The ancients said that if you treat a stone with sincerity, it will bloom. When can I let you unleash your true power? Brother, a Tao artifact, the Xianguang, flashed in his body. It came from the small heaven and earth immortal pot. Bai Ling came to his side in the blink of an eye. It turned out that the nebula had suddenly disappeared. In front of them was a huge galaxy. In the depths of the galaxy were very distant stars. There were many planets floating. This was the galaxy where the Big Dipper world was located. It was very far away from their galaxy, especially separated by an indescribably huge nebula. Even a cultivator with 3 calamity Tao would get lost in it. The heavenly ship disappeared. Bai Ling led the few of them to the empty and scattered nebula galaxy on the left. In less than 3 years, they finally saw the Big Dipper world. With the naked eye, it looked similar to other small worlds. After entering, the spirit chi of heaven and earth was not very abundant. It was even a little desolate. Because the Big Dipper world was at the edge of this galaxy, cultivation was not very prosperous. However, there were still some cultivators of various sizes who passed down their teachings here. Bai Ling led everyone into the depths of a large desolate land where only the mountains remained. Then, they entered the interior of a cold and desolate mountain ridge. They encountered a restriction that was filled with the aura of the power of chaos. Stepping into the restriction, they saw a huge and cold ancient karst cave. Besides the cold aura and the terrifying power of chaos, there was only a stone statue in the depths of the karst cave and some white bones. Chapter 861. As soon as the Lord of 5 Poisons, Lihaugia, and Lord Greenfeather stepped into the ancient cave, they were shocked by the mysterious power of chaos. They felt as if they were treading on thin ice. Please move aside. As for the stone statue, they did not dare to look at it casually. When Su Fong saw the stone statue, she guessed that it was the mysterious heavenly lord of chaos. Although it was a stone statue, it was probably not made of ordinary stone. The power of chaos it contained was also very shocking. The heavenly lord of chaos looked very young, less than 40 years old. His nose was like a hanging gallbladder, and his eyes were like pearls. His long hair was slightly tied to one side, as if he was looking at them alive. There were about 100 skeletons scattered around. Bai Ling introduced these people to her. They were likely Xing Qiu and her, who had obtained the celestial neck spirit ring, and came here to cultivate the power of chaos. In the end, they could not break through and slowly died here. As for Mu Chun, he was not a successor. He was just a successor that Li Xingqiu had captured and used the power of chaos to shackle him. When they came around the stone statue, Li Haojia saw the white bones on the ground and said with fear, "These white bones of the heavenly lord of chaos are like the demon lord of the demonic path." It's not like that. Bai Ling turned around and said, "I had the same idea before. Later, when I was chatting with Senior Mu-chun and merged with the power of chaos, I found these white bones. Everything in front of me is not real. There were hundreds of cultivators who had obtained the power of chaos by relying on various kinds of luck, but none of them had truly relied on their own efforts, talent, and hard work to truly unlock the secret of the celestial neck spirit ring and died here. They were just like those ordinary cultivators who died, unable to ascend. They were all amazing people who died here of old age. The Five Venoms sect master who had lived for over 100,000 years, praised by Ling. Yes, the little girl is right. Obtaining a peerless power like the power of chaos is something that many cultivators dream of. You can't blame anyone for dying here. Senior, let's go out first. I will help Sister by see how powerful the power of chaos is. I will not leave here until I unlock the secret. Su Fong asked the Lord of Five Poisons, Lord Greenfeather, and Li Haojia to leave the Kar's cave first. When he and Bai Ling were left alone, he looked around and said, Mu Chun told you in detail about everything here. Is there anything unusual around here other than the statue of the Heavenly Lord of Chaos? She shook her head. Let's go. He only gave me the Heavenly Lord of the Heavenly Lord of Chaos, passed the power, and then left. Then I'll first release my senses and see if there are any other differences other than the chaotic Heaven Monarch stone statue. Then, you can impart the mental cultivation method of the chaotic energy to me and condense the essence of the chaotic energy. Only by fusing the chaotic energy and cultivating the mental cultivation method can I better understand what is going on. Brother, the power of chaos can't be easily merged. I heard from Mu-chun that once you merge with the power of chaos, you will be like him, controlled by the successor of the power of chaos. Once you have the power of chaos, it will be difficult to remove it from your body. Mu-chun couldn't do it in his life. In the end, I got Li Xingqiu's power and broke the Heavenly Lord of the Heavenly Lord of Chaos that Li Xingqiu had refined for him. It doesn't matter. I also want to have the power of chaos. Okay. Seeing Su Fong's steely gaze, Bai Ling's heart warmed. He slowly sat cross-legged in the air. Perfect ability. Su Fong calmed himself down and released an amazing sensing power. It covered the space, including the area 100 feet underground and the entire ridge outside. He didn't miss any corner. After sensing it, it only took a dozen breaths. Except for the cold rocks and mountains, there is only the power of chaos in the Kar's cave and the statue of the Heavenly Lord of Chaos. Su Fong transmitted his voice to Bai Ling. Nothing. Are you ready? I think the secret is in the power of chaos and this statue. Okay, little brother, be careful. Bai Ling shot out a spirit light. Inside it was a ball of chaotic power. Su Fong grabbed it and thought for a moment. To be cautious, he first inserted it into a yang meridian to see if the power of chaos would have a terrifying backlash. Buzz! He undid the seal and inserted it into a yang meridian. The power of chaos suddenly exploded and turned into a black light. It poured into the yang meridian, causing the inconceivable pure yang energy to form a tornado. It then began to devour the pure yang energy. It was very ferocious and gave Su Fong a fright. The power of chaos did indeed have a backlash. This was why more than 100 inheritors eventually died of old age, unable to break free from the power of chaos. Once it came into contact with the power of chaos, it would absorb and fuse all the energy in the body, leaving only the power of chaos. At this moment, the power of chaos began to devour the pure yang energy, causing the center of the yang meridian to boil. I want to see if the power of the 9 yang 9 transformations cannot defeat the power of chaos. Su Fong activated the power of the 9 suns with all his might. He didn't expect that after a large-scale explosion, the chaotic power wouldn't struggle too much and would become obedient. Furthermore, the power of yin and yang from the 9 yang 9 transformations was actually slowly controlling the power of chaos. Heaven Sovereign Chaos Chaos, Yang Qi said, "Your power of chaos is domineering, but in the face of a boundless godly class energy art, you'll have no choice but to behave. That said, it's truly extraordinary. Even without my control over the power of yin and yang, my power of chaos is superior to that of yin and yang. This will definitely help Sister By get rid of her shackles. That said, considering they were created by Heaven's sovereign chaos, there must be other ways to get rid of them. After successfully controlling the chaotic force, with the yang meridian as the core, he began to cultivate according to the chaotic force mantra. So, the power of chaos is also very strong. No wonder it's so special. It's not something that can be cultivated out of thin air. It's something that exists in the first place and can only be cultivated by the legacy of the chaotic force. Even if other cultivators got the chaotic force mantra, they wouldn't be able to cultivate it. They would have to have the power of chaos inside of them to be able to cultivate it. It contains a mysterious aura of the world. It's cold, desolate, and complex. Could it be that this is the power of chaos? Or could it be that it came from a fragment of a world like the golden lotus stoneflower? I'll send some of the chaotic force into the golden lotus stoneflower to take a closer look. In such a short time, Su Fong had discovered many secrets. The chaotic force continued to absorb power from the yang meridian. Slowly, he began to send some of that power into the golden lotus stoneflower. Whoosh! Unexpectedly, as soon as the chaotic force touched the golden lotus stoneflower, it unleashed a mysterious lightning bolt that was 100 times stronger than before. In just a few moments, it suppressed the chaotic force and then absorbed it. It seems like the chaotic force might really be like what I thought. Its origin might be from a special fragment of a world or the power of a special world. It seems like the secret that can unlock Sister Bai's shackles lies in the heavenly neck spirit ring and the chaotic heaven monarch's stone statue. It was about time. Su Fong stopped cultivating. Then, with the addition of the chaotic force, his body became lighter and his aura became more ethereal. He called Bai Ling down and stood in front of the chaotic heaven monarch's stone statue. Sister Bai, I think the secret of the shackles lies in the heavenly neck spirit ring and this stone statue. Back then, I also encountered a similar situation and found a fragment of a world that ultimately possessed a special power. Perhaps the stone statue and the heavenly neck spirit ring also contained such a treasure or power. If we find it, we can no longer be shackled by the heavenly neck spirit ring and regain our freedom. Bai Ling took out the heavenly neck spirit ring. But when I entered the heavenly neck spirit ring, there was only the chaotic force inside. There was no substance or artifact. The heavenly neck spirit ring is an offensive artifact. Inside it is also a storage space. If there is nothing, then there must be a secret in this stone statue. You and I will work together to activate the chaotic force. I will release a special sensing force to look inside the stone statue. No one can see through this stone statue. Muchen also guessed that the secret is inside the stone statue. Sister believes in you. With Bai Ling as the main force, she released a large amount of chaotic force. Su Fong released a part of the aura. After the fusion, it shrouded the stone statue. With the naked eye and ordinary sensing force, the stone statue was still a stone statue. But fortunately, a part of the chaotic force slowly seeped in. It was difficult for Bai Ling's mind to follow the energy and permeate in. Su Fong began to release his ability to the extreme. He found that the stone statue was indeed not an ordinary stone. He consumed a large amount of his primordial spirit to let his sensing force gradually penetrate into the depths. Gradually, Su Fong also felt too tired. It was mainly because the stone statue was too terrifying and too sturdy. He could not let his primordial spirit penetrate it at will. However, he faintly sensed that in the deepest part of the stone statue, there was indeed a faint and strong aura. There was something inside the stone statue. Su Fong said, "There's something. Sister Bai, there's a secret in this stone statue. What should we do?" Bai Ling was eager to know the secret. The stone statue is too terrifying. It's constantly exhausting my primordial spirit. My sensing force can't really see through it. I think there's only one way, and that is to break it. Otherwise, if you rely on cultivation and don't become an immortal, you won't be able to move this thing at all, deceiving your master and destroying your ancestors. I'm his disciple. Is he your master? If he imprisons you like this, you'll always treat him as a disciple and listen to me. Deceiving your master and destroying your ancestors is deceiving your master and destroying your ancestors. Whether you break it or not, I'll give you another one and leave it here to enjoy the incense. Why didn't I notice that you're so violent? Sometimes I'm a little bit violent. Some places have lost some of their spiritual chi or have incomplete treasures. Find it and break it. She even said that Su Fong was violent. Bai Ling turned around and flashed. After a while, he grabbed a dozen treasures. Almost all of them were royal-grade treasures. Some of them were even of good quality. Go further away, go further away. This stone statue is not simple. The two of them hurriedly retreated more than 100 feet. Only then did Bai Ling grab a royal-grade flying sword. He spat out a mouthful of spiritual chi to activate it and stabbed it at the stone statue. Boom! The two of them were looking forward to it. Who would have thought that the flying sword would hit the stone statue? The sword instantly shattered and exploded. They looked at the stone statue again. There was no movement at all. Again, Bai Ling threw out another flying sword. Boom! In the end, the Dharma treasure exploded on its own. The stone statue did not move at all. He threw out other Dharma treasures, but the result was still the same. They shattered one by one. Su Fong asked Bai Ling to leave the remaining Dharma treasures that were not bad. They came to the stone statue and took a closer look. Under the attack of several Dharma treasures, there was no trace of damage. Bai Ling raised his eyebrows. It's too sturdy. Brother, I think even a Tao artifact can't break this stone statue of our founder. It's impossible to use a Tao artifact, right? They cannot bear to part with a Tao artifact. Moreover, they did not have an extra Tao artifact in their hands. Bai Ling suddenly felt very sad. He acted like a spoiled child. It seems that I can only stay in the mortal realm and watch you all ascend. Wait, let me think. All things reinforce and counteract each other. That's right, I have a bold idea. I think this is the only way. Ow! Let's use the Heavenly Neck Spirit Ring to attack this stone statue. It has the same power, but different materials. Maybe the Heavenly Neck Spirit Ring can break the stone statue. No way. What if it doesn't work? I believe that the Heavenly Neck Spirit Ring's hardness and power are better than the stone statue. We have to give it a try. Oh, Bai Ling reluctantly summoned the Heavenly Neck Spirit Ring. Chapter 862. Su Fong and Bai Ling's faces were filled with the determination to succeed or die trying. Go! Deceiving one's master and destroying one's ancestors, Bai Ling stomped her feet, released the Heavenly Neck Spirit Ring, and quickly hid behind Su Fong. Activating the defense was such a risky and uncertain thing. Su Fong also had to be prepared. After all, the Heavenly Neck Spirit Ring and the stone statue were both existences in the smaller world. Whoosh! Bang! The Heavenly Neck Spirit Ring rotated slightly, and with a light leap, it hit the stone statue of the Lord of Heaven in the blink of an eye. The impact was not only fierce, but it also shook the defense to the point of trembling. Moreover, the sound of the impact was like spring thunder, surging in the surroundings, breaking one's body and mind. However, after everything disappeared, there was no sound, but the stone statue was broken. The Heavenly Neck Spirit Ring floated above the broken stone statue, releasing a dazzling power of chaos. From the stone statue's rubble, there was actually another Heavenly Neck Spirit Ring. There was really something. Su Fong and Bai Ling hurriedly ran over. The Heavenly Neck Spirit Ring hidden in the stone statue was dark gold, but upon closer inspection, the general outline was similar to the Heavenly Neck Spirit Ring. However, upon closer inspection, it was not a ring, but a ring. A dark gold ring. Crack! Just as they were staring at the ring curiously, the Heavenly Neck Spirit Ring floating above suddenly vibrated and began to burn, then turned into wisps of mixed sand. The strange change suddenly struck again. The mixed sand was absorbed by the dark gold ring below, and gradually floated up with a luster. Bai Ling suddenly took a big step forward and her right hand involuntarily stretched out. A golden light appeared, and an arc was drawn, and it was already wrapped around her right index finger. It was that mysterious dark gold ring. Su Fong trembled and said, "I think the heavenly neck spirit ring is not worth mentioning compared to this ring. I have seen Yunxiao's thunder sword and Xinjia's gate. This ring gives me the same ancient and mysterious feeling. This is a peerless Tao artifact, a peerless treasure." Bai Ling stared at the ring, her spirit eyes flashing. "I have yet to fuse with it, but is indeed 10,000 times more powerful than the heavenly neck spirit ring. Furthermore, it seems that the shackles from the heavenly neck spirit ring have also disappeared. Like I said, the secret is in this stone statue." Obviously, the heavenly neck spirit ring was left behind by the Lord of Chaos to test the successor. Only by passing the test can one obtain the real treasure he left behind, which is this mixed-colored ring. "Then I'll fuse first." "Thank you, brother." Bai Ling turned around on the spot and hugged Su Fong. Then he leaped onto a green rock and sat cross-legged. He injected his mana and chaotic aura into the golden ring. It would probably take some time. Su Fong frowned. He seemed to have something on his mind, but he still left the forbidden Karst cave with relief. After he left, he went to the wasteland in midair and cast a barrier. A wave of tribulation aura was surging toward him, cultivating the chaotic energy, fusing it with the golden lotus stone flower, and fusing it with the pure yang energy. Who would have thought that he would be able to reach U Realm Level 9 peak so quickly? After he finished speaking, the formation was successfully set up. The undying tortoise also turned into a ray of spiritual light and appeared beside him. It looked a little lazy in the past, but when it saw the heavenly tribulation, it was full of energy. Su Fong released his 14 yang meridians, as well as the vast energy in his energy center and origin golden elixir. His body welcomed waves of impact. The energy surged and attacked his entire body. The sky was filled with heavenly tribulation. Not long after, there were clouds of heavenly tribulation. The tribulation aura, which was mainly red and black gold, was like an ocean that was about to boil. The heavenly tribulation this time is slightly different. Su Fong was a little shocked. "Kid, the Lord of Five Poisons suddenly transmitted his voice. Because you're about to reach U Realm Level 10 and reach the peak of the U Realm, you are about to enter the fairy realm. From then on, the heavenly tribulation will slowly change. Especially when you enter the fairy realm, you'll have to go through 3 catastrophes. At that time, the heavenly tribulation will change greatly. The heavenly tribulation is not only about power, but also about the 7 emotions and 6 desires. With your strength, it will not be difficult for you to enter the fairy realm. 7 emotions and 6 desires. What kind of heavenly tribulation was this?" He did not think too much about it. Although the heavenly tribulation of U Realm Level 10 was a little different, the overall power was strong. He did not feel that he could not defeat it. After grabbing the golden lotus stone flower, the first heavenly tribulation of crimson flames descended. The heavenly lightning and earthly fire all turned into crimson flames. Chi! With a wave of his hand, a bolt of lightning, which contained the power of lightning, was released by Su Fong. It turned into a huge net and caught the first heavenly tribulation, stripping it from within. Although Su Fong had yet to cultivate any great lightning-type divine ability, the black-yellow 6 Paths Pagoda contained lightning-type divine ability, allowing him to cast lightning-type true chi and unleash some lesser divine abilities. The crimson heavenly tribulation of crimson flames split into 2. With a point in his left hand, one part hit the undying turtle that had already released its original body. It opened its mouth and sucked the heavenly tribulation into its body. The remaining half of the heavenly tribulation of crimson flames forcefully shattered some of it. The remaining half hit his right palm again. This time, it did not create a bloody hole. Instead, it tore through his palm. The heavenly tribulation of crimson flames tore through Su Fong's bones and meridians and entered his body. It was much more painful than before, but Su Fong could still hold on. He controlled the crimson flames to flow through his body. Then, he used his vital energy from his left palm to strike the world fragment. The world fragment was not afraid of the heavenly tribulation of crimson flames at all. It shook, and some lightning appeared. This was because the golden lotus stone flower was absorbing some of the heavenly tribulation's power when it was attacked. Even when the heavenly tribulation of crimson flames hit the golden lotus stone flower, its color did not change. It was not even affected by the light of the heavenly tribulation. One extraordinary treasure. The heavenly tribulation could not affect it at all. However, it absorbed the crimson flames, which contained Su Feng's vital energy. It was equivalent to absorbing Su Feng's vital energy. This was why Su Feng could use the heavenly tribulation of crimson flames to fuse with it. The second, third, fourth, and even the 10th heavenly tribulation of crimson flames were all overcome in this way. The last 10 heavenly tribulations were especially terrifying. Su Feng used all his strength to shatter 9 heavenly tribulations and split the last heavenly tribulation of crimson flames into 2. The golden lotus stone flower rotated slightly in the crimson flames, slowly absorbing the crimson flames. However, after the heavenly tribulation ended, the world fragment still maintained its absorbing state. Su Feng, on the other hand, welcomed another great breakthrough. This time, the breakthrough was very violent. It continuously attacked from head to toe and from foot to head. A large amount of impurities also seeped out of the placenta. It had been a long time since such shocking impurities were seen. The 10th heavenly tribulation of crimson flames was the last realm of mortal realm cultivators. Entering the fairy realm was equivalent to entering the legendary half-fairy realm. The Great Tribulation was naturally powerful. When Su Feng's physical breakthrough ended, the world fragment was still slightly released by the crimson flames. From the collected resources of the immortals, he found an immortal pill and divided it into 2 portions. He and the immortal tortoise each took half. After consuming it, the effect was produced. It made the tired body absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth faster. In addition, Su Feng had the world might, so he could absorb the power of the Tiangang world wantonly. He could even refine the Tiangang world. When he was in the previous star field, he could also seize the immortal melody world, spiritual dust world, Tianfeng world, and other small worlds and refine them one by one. However, he did not do so. The most important reason was that the more small worlds there were, the slower the consumption of energy and cultivation speed. He was even a little late to obtain 5 small worlds in one go. Previously, he wanted to obtain the Zhuotian world, the mortal emperor world, and the primordial god world. If he did not have the strength to refine 5 small worlds, if he encountered immortals, it would be difficult to protect each small world. It would be a waste of energy and time. In the end, it would become a burden. The Tiangang world's spiritual qi was very ancient. After merging into his body, Su Fengda absorbed the vital qi wantonly. It surged in his body and gradually became stronger. As for the golden lotus stone flower, it calmed down and returned to the depths of his yang meridian, where it began to absorb the vital qi. Su Feng didn't sit down to meditate. Instead, he focused on his cultivation. Senior, Li Haojin and Green Feather Monarch were not far away. Sister Bai will probably leave this place soon. Since she's going to ascend, there are many things that I don't understand, especially since I just discovered that I'm still in the ascension realm. If I'm not an existence that can surpass 3 calamities, how will I ascend? The Lord of 5 Poisons seemed to be in a difficult position. Let me think about the matter of ascension. In the past, some of the Pontifex succeeded while others failed. All of them left behind some treasures. Perhaps you should look through the treasures left behind by the immortals. With that, Su Feng began searching through the treasures left behind by the immortals. There were quite a few, but most were immortal-class energy arts that he couldn't use. There were also some talismans, jade slips, and warding spells that were too powerful for him to unravel. Even if he could unravel one of them, would he be able to unravel all of them? That would be a waste of energy. Boy, the Lord of 5 Poisons said, I know a bit about ascension, and now that I've been reborn, I've been secretly preparing for it. I've collected a lot of ancient texts. Now that I think about it, the only way to ascend to a higher world is to surpass 3 tribulation transcendents in the flying immortal realm. After all, one has to pass through a place called the Heaven Abyss Ascension Cistern. Even King Greenfeather and Li Haojia stopped working on their cultivation. The Heaven Abyss Ascension Cistern is located at the highest point in a minor world's planetary system. Above it is the Chinquan Plain, and the Heaven Abyss Ascension Cistern is the border between a minor world and a greater world. Because of that, it contains terrifying immortal spirit energy. Therefore, only flying immortals with 3 tribulation transcendents can go there with immortal spirit bodies and immortal spirit energy. The Lord of 5 Poisons continued. However, according to some of the ancient texts, there are some cultivators with 3 tribulation transcendents who can go to the Heaven Abyss Ascension Cistern. Usually, cultivators like that don't have the confidence to succeed and are on the verge of dying. They don't want to be trapped in a minor world, so they take a gamble and go to the Heaven Abyss Ascension Cistern. Of course, there are no records about whether or not anyone has succeeded. However, there is one important piece of information. You don't have to surpass 3 tribulation transcendents to reach the Heaven Abyss Ascension Cistern. Senior, Li Haojia said eagerly, does that mean that cultivators with immortal spirit energy and immortal spirit bodies can go to the Heaven Abyss Ascension Cistern? Brother Fong and I both have those powers. Li Haojia and Su Fong were both in the Ascension realm. That's what it means. The Lord of 5 Poisons replied with certainty. Then that's fine. Senior, don't you know about the Heaven Abyss Ascension Cistern? Su Fong asked again. I can only imagine what kind of place it is, but it doesn't seem real, and I can't describe it. I got it. I'll summon the immortal pot, primordial spirit. The Heaven Abyss Ascension Cistern was a place only immortals knew about. There were no immortals here. However, there was a Tao artifact. Su Fong hurriedly released a beam of immortal light, and a teapot halo appeared. It spoke in an ethereal voice. I'm only a magic treasure, so I don't know much about the Heaven Abyss Ascension Cistern. However, when I followed the immortals to the lower realm this time, I roughly saw it. It's a mysterious space between a minor world and a greater world. Most of the energy there comes from the greater world's complex energy. Mortal cultivators who go there will be restrained. Chapter 863. Different channels. They surrounded the artifact spirit of the small universe immortal pot with curious gazes. Look, please move, Yuan Ling said. Because there are different planes in the great world, those who ascend from the small world will naturally not enter the same great world. There will be many channels, and from these channels, they will ascend to the great world. Master, the other subordinates do not understand. Only immortals can explain in detail. That's enough. After absorbing Yuan Ling into the void, Su Fong looked at the 3 experts. We should use the remaining time to properly cultivate and fuse with the Tao artifacts. Once we are fully prepared, we will head to the Heavenly Abyss Ascension Pool. Let's do that. The 3 nodded in agreement. Su Fong's consciousness returned to his main body. He continued to absorb the power of nature with the undying tortoise in the sky, strengthening his newly broken body. At this moment, he suddenly formed a seal. Schwa-schwa streaks of blood tattoos drilled out of his flesh, densely covering his skin. Some of these blood tattoos contain the state of a blood lotus. Familiar physical state. Nightmare blood transformation. I have to control you more perfectly. No, from now on, I will have a new physical body. It will be the blood transformation true body, not the nightmare blood transformation. My will not be shaken, so it will not be a nightmare, but a blood transformation. My new physical ability will be called the Blood Transformation True Body. Poo-poo 2 blood horns suddenly shot out from below his shoulders. They were very domineering, sharp, and sturdy. Nightmare blood transformation. No, this was different from the original Nightmare blood transformation. The bloodlines contained the Black Lotus True Body. After activating it, Su Fong's will was clear, and his Tao heart was like a mountain. Furthermore, the Nightmare blood transformation was also based on a perfect realm body, and it was cultivated by Su Fong. This was a brand new power that only perfect realm bodies and those with extraordinary power could truly control and possess. Blood transformation true body. Wonderful, wonderful, without the slightest trace of evil. The devilish chi has also perfectly fused with the blood chi. The devilish chi is only half. As long as you control your will and devilish chi, you won't be devoured by the nightmares. This is the true body that I, Su Fong, possess. It is an existence similar to the five poison true body and the black lotus true body, the blood transformation true body. Huang Lingyao and Yin Fuxin's desolate bodies are even more powerful than their true bodies. However, I believe that with my perfect body, in the future, I will definitely be able to transform my true body into a desolate body, as well as the legendary Dao body. In the great world, if you don't have any special power, even surviving is a problem. That place is filled with immortals, and cultivators who can become immortals are all outstanding geniuses. A great world is even harder to live and cultivate in than a minor world. He maintained his blood transformation true body state. He began to activate the power of his physical body, and layers of blood-red lines intertwined on his body. After a few days, the blood traces turned into a blood-red cloak that covered his body. Under the protection of the blood-red robe, he could already resist the attacks of any 3 calamity grades. Then, he began to control the blood horns. It was somewhat inconvenient for the blood horns to grow forward, so Su Fong began to control the blood horns. It would be best if they grew from his shoulder. His main goal was to let him control the blood horns. However, the blood horns were not easy to control. Controlling the flesh and blood could make the blood horns shrink slightly, but it was not easy to make the blood horns grow. However, it was easier to make the blood horns grow than to shrink toward the body. If he wantonly controlled the blood horns, it would consume his vitality. Su Fong had just survived the calamity, and his vitality had only recovered by about 90%. If he consumed it again, it would not be worth it. The blood horns are hard to control. It should be because my cultivation is not enough, and my physical body is not enough to support the blood transformation. When I become an immortal, I will probably be able to gradually control the blood transformation true body. Now, let's see how amazing my blood transformation true body is. At this moment, he focused his attention on other aspects. He slowly stretched out his left hand, and a stream of true chi condensed on his right middle finger. He gently cut his left arm, and a wound appeared on his arm. As soon as he heard the sound of blood tearing, Su Fong saw the wound start to heal like a living flesh and blood monster. In less than 3 breaths, the wound that was nearly half a foot long was healed. 3 breaths, the wound healed. Just how astonishing was the power of his physical body. However, Su Fong was still very calm. When I used the Nightmare Demon blood transformation in battle, I found that the blood transformation true body had fused with the perfected physical body and the Black Lotus true body. Naturally, I also have the self-healing ability of the 2 special physical bodies. As expected, my physical body's recovery ability is better than any big goblin. However, I am more looking forward to the perfected physical body. After that, I will keep changing. The Black Lotus true body and the blood transformation true body are built on the perfected physical body. Without the perfected physical body, these 2 true bodies will not reach such amazing heights. 7-Star Child has the ability of the Black Lotus true body, but he does not have a perfected physical body. Therefore, I am very sure that his Black Lotus true body is not as powerful as mine. This person will use any means to achieve his goal. You want to refine me into a second clone. When I go to the world and find you, I will definitely fuse with your Black Lotus true body. There were too many images in his mind. A few years later, the blood transformation true body state disappeared. Su Fong returned to normal and released his consciousness to the surrounding experts. Brother, I have fused with the Heaven Lord of Chaos's ring. Bai Ling was the first to rush over. He stretched out his right hand happily, and a gold ring flashed on his index finger. This is the Chaos Ring, a Dharma treasure owned by the Heaven Lord of Chaos. It is full of the power of chaos. I also found a consciousness left behind by him inside. Did he say where he came from? Su Fong pricked up his ears curiously. No, he just told me to cultivate the power of chaos and not to use the Chaos Ring casually. He also said that one day, the Chaos Ring will allow me to meet him. The Heaven Lord of Chaos is not dead. Look at your eyes. He is not dead, okay? He is still alive. Even if he is alive, he is an old fart. Brother's right. He is an old fart. He used the Heaven Neck Spirit Ring to torture me for so many years. If I really meet him in the future, I will definitely betray my master again. Bai Ling treated the Chaos Ring as a living treasure and did not cherish it. He stroked it here and there, treating it as a living treasure. Chinquin Immortal Pot. Can you sense the quality of the Chaos Ring? Su Fong was secretly communicating with a mini Chinquin Immortal Pot. Master, that Chaos Ring is very simple. It is as thick as the heavens and earth. It is definitely a peerless Tao artifact. This Tao artifact is not something that I can sense. It should be about the same quality as the Heaven Lord's Lightning Sword, one of the 10 great Tao artifacts. You also know about the Heaven Lord's Lightning Sword. We Dharma treasures naturally pay attention to Dharma treasures. The 10 great Tao artifacts of the great world are known by most Dharma treasures. Their names spread far and wide, and everyone knows about them. I just did not expect the mysterious Heaven Lord's Lightning Sword to land in the mortal world and in the mini Chinquin Immortal Pot where Master is. It is indeed extraordinary. His consciousness returned, and he took out some immortal pills and low-grade resources of the great world. He divided these resources into more than 20,000 portions and placed them into the mini Chinquin Immortal Pot, allowing the 20,000 junior commanders to absorb them. Their strength would increase step by step. Within the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, they would become stronger together with Su Fong in the great world. Only Zhu Emperor was qualified to be the Grand Commander. The Grand Commander was originally Green Feather Monarch, but after experiencing the Xinjia Gate, Su Fong treated him like family. The purple Aura Dharma Spirit in my right arm still has not fused further. What kind of Dharma treasure is it? I need to obtain the third part of the Sage Longevity before I can cultivate it. He also began to fuse with his Dharma treasures. Starry Daylight Sword, Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, Flaming Cloud Spirit Gourd. It was still difficult to cultivate in the primordial chaos sage realm. As for the True Demon Bloodplate, he left it to the Blood Wraith True Demon to fuse with. He only had a few Dharma treasures now. As for the one who could devour the great world's energy the most, it was not Su Fong, the Undying Tortoise, the Lord of 5 Poisons, Green Feather Monarch, or Li Haojia. It was the Blood Wraith True Demon. This fellow was a glutton. He ate everything and was not afraid of anything. He did not care if it was poisonous or not, as long as it was filled with energy. After some time, the Lord of 5 Poisons, Green Feather Monarch, and Li Haojia flew over. The Undying Tortoise also came over, together with Su Fong and Bai Ling. The 6 of them began to leave the Big Dipper realm. Before leaving, Bai Ling completely sealed the land of inheritance left behind by the Chaos Heaven Monarch. From now on, there was no more chaotic energy or the Heavenly Neck Spirit Ring. When they arrived outside the Big Dipper realm, the 6 of them looked up at the starry sky. They could see the 3 dazzling divine suns in the depths, enveloping the Milky Way and making it even more mysterious. They gradually flew towards the higher Milky Way. At first, the 6 of them were still very fast. However, when they were far away from the Big Dipper realm and could not see any planets below them with the naked eye, they slowed down significantly. This was because the shackles of the higher Milky Way began to grow stronger. From the flying immortal realm to the feather transformation realm, finally to the catastrophe realm, and gradually to the undying realm. Before this, the few of them already felt that the star domain was too terrifying. However, from the looks of it now, the star domain was far more terrifying than what they remembered. When the 6 of them continued to fly towards the starry sky with the speed of the undying realm, they gradually encountered a terrifying cold air. The hem of their clothes and the tips of their clothes quickly froze into white ice, and their speed slowed down again. The color of the starry sky also became a little blurry, like an endless paste. Lihaoja wiped away the surrounding ice and looked at the paced starry sky above him in surprise. What's going on? The shackles directly above are very shocking. Why are the shackles on the right side much weaker? It seems to be guiding us in the dark. Everyone also felt that something was wrong. The Lord of Five Poisons was the only one who did not change his expression. Everyone doesn't know. This is the heavenly road. Heavenly road. Every expert suppressed their speed and looked at the paced starry sky above them. The heavenly road. We cultivators cultivate against the heavens and tread on the heavenly road to become immortals. It is rumored that there is a heavenly road that leads to the great world. It is hidden in the depths of the Milky Way. The heavenly road will guide the cultivators who pursue the great world to finally step into the great world. The Lord of Five Poisons introduced. This legend is indeed true. Back then, I also suspected the existence of the heavenly road, but I didn't expect it to really exist. Everyone, let's follow the weak shackles of the Milky Way and fly towards the depths. The end must be the heavenly abyss ascension pool. Is the heavenly road dangerous? Bai Ling suddenly asked a question that made everyone's hearts skip a beat. The Lord of Five Poisons smiled, but did not say anything. Everyone also understood that since it was the heavenly road, it must be a difficult path to the heavens. Everyone condensed their defenses and began to slowly activate their auras to sense the Milky Way with the strongest shackles. They continued to follow the shackles of the Milky Way. At first, they were able to reach the undead realm, but later, they became slower and slower. After flying for 2 years, they still did not see the heavenly abyss ascension pool. Their speed was also forced to be at the vast core realm. Their true chi defenses would be frozen by the cold from time to time. The freezing power would sweep over their bodies. If they did not expel the cold immediately, they would be completely encased in ice, forming a huge ice cone. The heavenly road. It was really the heavenly road. They could not see the end of the sky. Everyone's true chi was severely depleted, and they were so tired that they could not fly. When they looked down, they could no longer see the familiar starry sky. They felt as if they had entered a deep nebula. The shackles of the heavenly road were also beginning to become a huge threat. If their true chi was not abundant, and if they did not have any special methods, it would be difficult to walk out of the heavenly road. Chapter 864. Trampling Heaven Road to Su Fong. It was very similar to the time when he went to Tianmen Province, Mo Tianmen. At that time, Tianmen Province was like a large world, untouchable. Several years passed in the blink of an eye. The heavenly road was no longer empty, but completely sticky. A large amount of dust solidified in the void, and further in, some substances solidified. These substances were harder than the core of the earth, comparable to the core of the earth. Even the quality of the Starlight Sword could not reach such hardness. It's really difficult. If we didn't prepare a large amount of resources before, we wouldn't have been able to persist until here. There were more and more substances, and it was as if they had arrived at a dusty material world. Lihaojia was exhausted. He swallowed an aphrodisiac pill and slowly walked through the ruins with everyone, heading deeper into the heavenly road. From time to time, there would be larger substances blocking the heavenly road. Fortunately, these substances did not have a trace of energy, or if they fell, they could have killed anyone here. We're not in a hurry. Since we're all here, we should be able to reach the ascension pool as long as we persist. If there are larger substances or dense areas of substances, we should rest for a while. The Lord of Five Poisons was in a better state than Lihaojia, but his robe would freeze from time to time, and he needed to form a defense again and again. The Lord of Five Poisons was right. In the deeper parts of the heavenly road, there were indeed thick substances that solidified together, forming a material heavenly road that led to higher places. Everyone found a cave cliff, and Su Fong released the power of the world to form a defense against most of the cold and shackles. However, with his ability, he could not maintain the defense for a long time. In the end, he gave up. The Lord of Five Poisons released a mobile cave abode, and everyone went in to rest. The mobile cave abode could not absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth here, so they did not dare to absorb it wantonly. The more they absorbed, the less spiritual energy there would be. If there was no energy to support it, the mobile cave abode would collapse. Unable to cultivate, everyone could only stay in the mobile cave abode and not be affected by the cold. When they rested, they swallowed pills and absorbed the substances of the large world. Fortunately, after cultivating in the small world for a few hundred years, Su Fong had obtained a lot of resources from the large world, enough for everyone to cultivate in the large world. Moreover, they were still mortals and could not truly integrate the power of the large world. One immortal pill was divided into 6 portions, enough for 6 people to absorb for a while. After resting for a few months, the 6 of them continued to venture deeper into Heaven's Road. Some human bones could be seen in the pile of materials. Unfortunately, they were either dried by the wind or turned into white bones. It was clear that cultivators who came here couldn't resist the terrifying shackles of the heavenly path and were eliminated by the natural forces of heaven and earth. Dang! Su Fong, who was running at a fast speed and flying at a low altitude, suddenly heard a noise. It sounded like a knocking sound, or perhaps it was the sound of something falling to the ground. This caused Su Fong to frown. The heavenly road was quiet, and he had never heard any sound. Why was there suddenly a commotion? The Lord of Five Poisons, Li Haojia, Green Feather King, Undying Tortoise, and Bai Ling didn't sense any movement. This was something that only a consummate ability could sense. When they found out about this, they all felt that this was no small matter. How could there suddenly be such a disturbance in this kind of place? Everyone proceeded forward cautiously, and in the vast heavenly road, a faint luster of a Tao artifact appeared. There were 3 cultivators resting in the light circle. One of them was activating the Tao artifact's power to form a barrier that allowed the 3 of them to stay here for a long time. It should be an ascender from Heaven Dipper World. The Lord of Five Poisons secretly transmitted, "Don't worry, we'll just go around it." Thus, the 6 of them went around the light circle and flew at a low altitude. Almost at the same time, the 3 experts in the light circle also appeared. They didn't make a move and just looked surprised, as if they couldn't understand why so many people had ascended together. Fortunately, there was no friction. If they fought in Heaven's Road, it wouldn't be good for either side. A few months later, Heaven's Road was almost filled with material, and the starry sky could no longer be seen. Everyone came from a small world to the starry sky, then found the empty Heaven's Road from the starry sky, and finally came to this Heaven's Road that was piled up into a passage. It was impossible to describe their reverence for the heavenly Tao. There's movement again. It seems to be air currents. After another 2 years, everyone could only move forward on foot. If this continued, they wouldn't be able to reach the heavenly abyss ascension pool, and their lives would be in danger. Su Fong was pleasantly surprised to hear movement, and it was continuous. The Lord of Five Poisons guessed that it was the heavenly abyss ascension pool. Everyone immediately rushed toward the source of the sound. Soon, a complicated space without much light appeared in front of the 6 of them. It was like a boundless nebula. The origin spirit of the small universe Immortal Pot confirmed that this space in front of them was the border of Heavenly Abyss Ascension Pool. They would find the Ascension Pool if they went deeper. Green Feather King suddenly saw a large amount of green demonic chi disappear. It's actually here. The small world's true chi is crushed by invisible shackles as soon as it leaves the body, while the immortal chi is firmly guarding the body. Li Haojia also saw that the defense was beginning to collapse. Me too. The moment my true chi surges out, it's like it's evaporating. Clearly, now that we've arrived at the Ascension Pool, the true chi we've cultivated in the minor world won't be of much use. Everyone, begin using your immortal chi. Once you combine it with your true chi, It'll be fine." The 5 poison sect leader looked at everyone. They all began to form hand seals and change their defenses. A large amount of immortal chi appeared, but it didn't even seem to be a tenth of the immortals' immortal chi. Only after changing their defenses could the 6 of them enter the ascension pool. As soon as they entered the ascension pool's strange aura, they found that they began to move according to the aura. However, they didn't move forward. Instead, they moved in a clockwise direction. They began to walk deeper into the pool. It was too coincidental. They hadn't walked very far when solid objects appeared in front of them. If they had moved according to the aura before, they might have run into those objects. Even if they didn't die, they would have been seriously injured. They advanced even more cautiously. Now that they were in the ascension pool, they couldn't tell which direction they were going. They could only move toward the mysterious shackles of the heavenly path. There's a stone steel. Another few years passed. Although they didn't run into any danger, they still didn't know what to expect. They didn't know what to expect and what to expect. Suddenly, they saw a gray stone steel within the gloomy aura. It was 10 feet tall, and it floated in the air. It wasn't affected by the aura at all. There were also words on it. They had used a great divine ability to inscribe inscriptions that would never disappear. The Lord of 5 Poisons glanced at it. "Lower realm cultivators, my land is the ascension pool. Once you enter the ascension pool, you'll need to gather spirit roots from the ascension channel." What is a spirit root? It is the foundation you must have to become an immortal. The spirit root will cleanse your body, and you will have an immortal body. Only then can you enter the ascension pool. Remember this. Su Fong punched his fist. Seems like we need to enter the ascension pool, cleanse our spirit roots, and have an immortal body. Only then can we truly enter the ascension pool. That makes sense. Otherwise, it would be too easy for us to enter the major world with just some immortal chi and an immortal body. The 6 of them quickly went around the stone steel. Behind them was an even thicker immortal chi. From time to time, there would be a surge of unique immortal chi. They couldn't see any channel or any space in front of them. When they stepped into the surging immortal chi, they instantly found themselves in a mysterious space filled with immortal chi. This must be the real ascension pool. There are also many channels of immortal chi in front of them. These must be the channels that lead to the major world from the ascension pool. The spirit roots must be somewhere in those channels. But they didn't go to the channels immediately. There were many skeletons in front of them. Some of the corpses had died recently, and there were many skeletons. These people must have died here before they could find the spirit roots. Whoosh! Suddenly, 2 cultivators flew out from one of the channels in front of them. One of them said with disdain, "What are you looking at? If you can't find the spirit roots, you will be trapped here forever. The ascension pool is a place of no return. Only immortals can leave this place." Just a quick reminder. If you find the spirit roots, don't tell anyone about it. Find a hidden place to fuse with it. Otherwise, if someone sees it, they will try to take the spirit roots. Half of the people who died here died like this. Don't be useless. If they want to deal with you and me, we will be in big trouble. The other person next to him didn't give the 6 any face. The 2 powerful cultivators entered another channel with strange smiles. Li Haojia looked at everyone in surprise. The ascension pool is so dangerous. There are so many skeletons here. That is why we are not afraid of these cultivators. The undying tortoise said with disdain. After all, he was the most powerful. Master, just as he took a step forward and approached the channel, the mini-universe immortal pot suddenly said, "Each of these ascension channels can lead to a great world. Think carefully before you enter. Otherwise, you will go to some unfamiliar great worlds that you do not want to go to." Su Fong heard it and broke out in cold sweat. "I have thought about this. 7-star child brought Huang Lingyao and Sheng Changsheng to the Xianao Great World. I am worried that this person will have some means to go to the Yuan Great World, where Holly is." Yuan Ling said, "Master, why don't you go to the Deqian Celestial World where I am? It is because I know that place very well. However, I do not know much about the Yuan Great World. I cannot help you there. That is not a problem. I have my reasons for going to the Yuan Great World. Back then, 7-star child killed Holly. I obtained an immortal talisman from his corpse. With this immortal talisman, I can get close to the Holly family and tell them who killed him. They can then deal with Seven-Star Child. Kid, this is a good idea. You can kill two birds with one stone. Not only can you stay in the Yuan Great World, but you can also use the power behind Holly to deal with Seven-Star Child for you. The Lord of Five Poisons was full of praise. Everyone, how about we go to the Yuan Great World? To respect everyone, Su Fong began to look at everyone. The Lord of Five Poisons immediately said, "We do not know anything about the Great World. It is not the best idea to act alone. It is better to go to the Yuan Great World together. One more person means one more helper." The others did not have any objections. Su Fong took out the talisman that was sealed in his body. It was left behind by Holly after he died. From his talisman, he could sense the aura of life and a slightly abundant world power. It should be the aura of a great world. In other words, it was the aura of the Yuan Great World. After slightly absorbing the aura of the Great World from the talisman and grasping the aura of the Yuan Great World, he came to the front of the passage with everyone. Then he released his shocking senses. There were dozens of passages in front of them. If cultivators who did not know the inside story casually stepped in, they would step into an unfamiliar great world. That is the Yuan Great World's Ascension Passage. After an hour, his senses returned. Su Fong pointed at one of the passages in surprise and led everyone in. Once they entered the Ascension Passage, the six of them found it difficult to move. Chapter 865. It was difficult to move forward. This was what mortals felt. However, when the six of them entered the Ascension Passageway, they felt like they had fallen from heaven to hell. The Ascension Passageway was formed by countless mysterious immortal patterns and substances. The aura inside came from the great world, but the aura of the small world had solidified into substances. The main reason why it was difficult to move forward was because of the immortal chi. The shackles in the passageway were completely different from the small world. One had to use immortal chi to activate their powerful life force. Similarly, without an immortal spirit body that had been condensed for many years, it could not work with the immortal chi to pass through the passageway. Everyone endured the suppression and activated the immortal chi that they had cultivated over the years. With a strength that gradually surpassed their mortal bodies, they walked deeper into the passageway. The Ascension Passageway was filled with a large amount of sparkling immortal light or many barriers that twisted together like fried dough twists. Even Tao artifacts could not break the Ascension Passageway. The consumption of immortal chi is too shocking. The quintessential chi of the small world in my Dantian is also useless. After walking for an unknown period of time, Li Haojia looked at them with extreme exhaustion. He had the Elemental Suppression and Monster Transformation Heavenly Book. He had fused with it for many years and was also a tribulation taker. Yet, he could not take it in the Ascension Passageway. It was obvious how difficult it was. I now understand why the Immortals said that I was wasting the immortal chi in the mini-universe Immortal Flask. It turns out that immortal chi is so important in the Heavenly Abyss Ascension Pool. Although there is immortal chi in the Ascension Passageway, it is all within the barriers and cannot be absorbed. Many cultivators have collapsed in the Ascension Passageway because of this. Fortunately, everyone has been in the small world for many years. We have absorbed the essence of immortals, immortal pills, and other resources. We can still hold on. Su Fong looked at Li Haojia. Although he was tired, he could still hold on. The others also walked forward step by step. After passing through layers of barriers, they could no longer sense the aura of the small world. They felt that the small world had disappeared after entering the Ascension Passageway, leaving behind the shackles of the great world and an indescribably complicated power. This power was not something that the cultivators who ascended from the lower realm could control. Almost 3 months later, the 6 of them had already exhausted a shocking amount of energy, both from their bodies and their minds. They had to support the Ascension Passageway's barrier with both hands to continue walking. Suddenly, a look of shock appeared on their faces as they stared ahead. The depths of the tunnel was actually a space that was close to a vacuum state. There was no substance in this space, and from time to time, only spirit chi would explode within it. There were also some spiraling spirit chi currents that swept past. In addition, the bubbles formed by the spiritual light suddenly emerged from the bottom of the space and rose to the top of the space at a different speed. At this moment, the mini-cosmos immortal pot sent a voice transmission. Master, this is the ascension pool where the spiritual roots exist. Those bubbles will appear from time to time and take the spiritual roots. Then they will fuse with the spiritual roots in the bubbles. Once the spiritual roots are fused, the bubbles will automatically point out the direction and bring the cultivator out of the ascension pool to a corner of a Yuan fortune great world. Su Fong then told this to the experts around him, and everyone immediately walked side by side into the ascension pool. The moment he arrived at the ascension pool, he felt that it was a great world filled with immortal chi. There was not a trace of the aura or impurities of small world. The six of them could not breathe because their bodies were not real immortal bodies. They only had a part of the immortal spirit bloodline, so they could not control the real immortal spirit energy. They continued to activate the immortal spirit energy in their bodies, and everyone carefully walked forward. Their attention was focused on the rising bubbles. Suddenly, Bai Ling saw something. Everyone looked over and saw a cultivator inside a bubble floating 1,000 feet above them. His entire body was covered in immortal light, and immortal patterns were intertwining. It was obvious that he had obtained the spiritual roots and was fusing with them to obtain a real immortal spirit body. This gave everyone unlimited motivation, and they all stared at the bubble. It's here! A bubble flew out from the boundary that they could not see the bottom of. Inside, it was a half-foot-long immortal spiritual light that was as thick as a finger. Spiritual roots, the undying turtle exclaimed in surprise. Su Fong looked at everyone and finally looked at Li Haojia. Brotherly, you go first. Once the spiritual roots are fused, there's no need to wait for the rest. I will go first then. Among the six of them, Li Haojia was the weakest. His cultivation level was the same as Su Fong's, and he was not even in the flying celestial realm. He did not hesitate. After bowing to everyone, he activated his Tao artifact and sprinted forward. After half an incense stick's worth of time, Li Haojia finally caught up with the bubble under everyone's expectant gazes. He successfully entered the bubble and sucked the spiritual roots into his body. He slowly rose into the air with the bubble, and then unleashed rays of light to release Saintess Ao Zhen. He wanted to help Ao Zhen absorb the spiritual roots and become an immortal. Everyone continued to wait. Soon, 3 bubbles with spiritual roots appeared. Su Fong asked Ao Zhen, Bai Ling, and the undying turtle to go first. Another spiritual root appeared. The Lord of 5 Poisons and Lord Green Feather saw another bubble appear from the other side. Phew, but from the side, a man with a Tao artifact's chi presence appeared. He stepped into the bubble first and took the spiritual roots. He coldly looked at the 3 of them. You're still being honest. I am not someone you can offend. This spiritual root's spiritual chi is very shocking. It is a good spiritual root, and it can have a shocking immortal body. Someone is indeed spying on us. Cultivators who can come here are not simple. If they don't have a Tao artifact, they have other methods. Also, they say that the spiritual roots are different. As the Lord of 5 Poisons finished speaking, Su Fong immediately activated his Great Circle ability. Sure enough, the spiritual chi of this spiritual root was very calm. This was because the energy had no impurities, which meant that the spiritual chi was very clean and abundant. He then sensed the spiritual roots of the others. Whether it was the spiritual chi, or the aura of the body, there was a clear difference. It turned out that the spiritual roots were so different. He looked at Lord Green Feather and the Lord of 5 Poisons. Seniors, most cultivators want to get a perfect spiritual root and cleanse the marrow to have a perfect body. We don't need to care. Let's become immortals first. If we must get a good spiritual root, we will have to fight and snatch it. I believe that when we go to the great world, we will be able to get a powerful immortal body through cultivation. Yes, Cultivation does not rely on treasures or resources. It mainly depends on oneself. The Lord of Five Poisons and Lord Green feather nodded at the same time. They released a bright light and searched the surroundings. Soon, two bubbles appeared, one in front and one behind. They just happened to have spiritual roots. Lord Green Feather and the Lord of Five Poisons did not hesitate and rush forward. Vermilion Emperor, Sky-Reaching Monster Venerable, Wooling Goblin, Nine-Segment Earth Dragon, Nine-Headed Monster King, Brute Force Monster King. You six big goblin kings, I will let you get spiritual roots here first. As for the other big goblins, when I go to the great world and have supreme strength, I will definitely help you cultivate immortal bodies. It turned out that Su Fong had stayed behind for another purpose. He released 6 demonic lights, and the 6 big goblins appeared in human form. After bowing to Su Fong, they opened their eyes and looked at the surrounding bubbles. Soon, they entered the bubbles one by one and fused with the spiritual roots. When Su Fong stepped into the bubble last, it was estimated that a month had passed since Li Haojie. Spiritual roots. Floating in the bubble, Su Fong was not worried about any danger. That was because once he entered the bubble and grabbed the spiritual roots, the bubble would clearly shackle itself. The ascension pool was invisible, protecting those who obtained the spiritual roots. Although Su Fong desperately wanted to obtain a true immortal body, he first released his perception to sense the spiritual roots. First was a seal. It was not very sturdy, but it sealed the power inside. He could see immortal marks on the seal. Inside the seal was a natural life energy that contained a high-level aura, as well as pure immortal chi that he had never seen before. It was completely different from the immortal chi of a Tao item. It was like the difference between true chi and natural chi. Clearly, the spiritual roots were not born normally. They were born from some kind of will of the ascension pool. It was specially created to allow those who ascended to form an immortal body and become an immortal. The small universe immortal pot told Su Fong that the immortal chi inside the spiritual roots was immortal energy. It was also the true chi of an immortal. It was the true chi of a great world formed through condensation. So that was it. There are only 2 obvious forces in the spiritual roots, immortal energy and a strong life energy. The other mysterious forces are very vague. They probably contain a lot of esoteric forces. With my cultivation level, I can't really sense what the spiritual roots are. Let's merge them first. He opened his mouth and sucked the spiritual roots into his body. Then, in this vast and empty ascension pool, he released the seal in his body. With his body and cultivation level of Ascension Stage 10, he welcomed the cleansing of the spiritual roots. Pa! Pa! The moment the spiritual roots melted, there was a strong impact. The immortal energy in the spiritual roots did not seem to be much. However, when it entered his body, there was such a strong impact. It was probably because Su Fong was still immortal. If he was an immortal, there would not be much change. His meridians, bones, and blood were all under the impact of the immortal energy. The impurities in the placenta surged out of his skin layer by layer, turning into black particles that scattered around Su Fong. Enduring the pain and pleasure, Su Fong saw that his skin was being burned by the impact and started to shed. His flesh was burning, his bones were broken, and his meridians were empty. After the explosion of immortal energy reached this state, another wave of life energy from the blood essence of immortals gave Su Fong a clear and comfortable feeling. It burst out from the depths of his body and surged into his flesh, meridians, and bones. The shedding skin started to form immortal patterns. White jade-like skin grew out. His meridians, bones, flesh, and blood also started to grow rapidly. At the same time, the divine aperture in his mind was replaced by immortal energy. As it was too late, when the immortal energy replaced the divine aperture's boundary, he could not control it. The divine aperture almost exploded because the immortal energy was too strong and the boundary was too ordinary. Fortunately, he discovered it in time and cast a new and powerful seal to protect the divine aperture. The life energy and immortal energy also surged into his young infant, giving his primordial spirit the illusion that it was soaring. At this moment, Su Fang almost forgot to take care of his surroundings. He focused all his attention on the spiritual roots planted in his body. When he released the power of the Great Circle, he did not expect that the power of the Great Circle seemed to start anew. His senses could penetrate very far. Suddenly, he found that there was a suction force from a boundary above, sucking him and the bubble inside. He quickly swallowed the immortal pill. After entering the suction force, he suddenly felt like he had entered an ancient well. There was no sound, no movement, and no familiar aura. Drip! A strange sound suddenly came from a boundary and the suction force. Su Fang saw the bubble disappear. He was on the ground, full of immortal fog. Around him was either immortal fog or immortal clouds. He urged the 6 wills. "Come here, master." Suddenly, there was movement around him. It turned out that there were 6 big goblins with shocking immortal light. They flew over, and each of them had immortal patterns on their bodies and eyes. They had all become immortals. Su Fang sucked them into the small heaven and earth immortal pot. After ascending, he did not know what he would encounter. Having a foundation was the best way. He let the 6 big goblins absorb the immortal pill and the resources of other great worlds. Only then did he contact Bai Ling, the undying turtle, Li Haojia, the Lord of 5 poisons, and the Green Feather King. Chapter 866. Thanks to the power of the Great Circle, he could sense their auras coming from the depths of the mysterious dimension. As Su Fang flew forward, he didn't feel any different than he usually did. However, he could now control the immortal spirit energy inside of him. He didn't even need to suppress the medicinal strength of an immortal pill. Furthermore, he could absorb the immortal spirit energy in the air. Immortal. So, this is what it means to be an immortal. Su Fang's senses and fleshly body had undergone shocking transformations. He could now unleash a single fist strike that could wipe out millions of cultivators from the primordial god world. If he fought Jing Suifeng head-on, he could use his bare hands to fight Dao items. "My lord, this is a corner of the Yuan prosperity world," he said. "You can say that it's a part of the plane. Although the mini heaven and earth immortal pot came from the Deqian immortal world, it had some understanding of the Yuan fortune world and other worlds." It continued, "A great world is different from a small world. A small world is an amalgamation of a large number of star regions. Every star region has a large number of stars. Every star is a small world created by the human ancestors and generations of cultivators. But in a major world, it's a vast planetary system, also known as a starry cosmos. It's a universe where the planets are located. Within that vast planetary system, there are numerous planes of existence, each of which is separated by starry rivers, planetary systems, heavenly motes, and other natural forces. Some of them are very close to each other, while others are very far away. In fact, it would take countless planetary systems to reach another major world. A plane is a major world, and within that plane are countless organizations, as well as countless immortal worlds. Immortal worlds are built within planes of existence. They can be small planetary systems or small planes of existence, or they can be small planes of existence. They can be islands, mountain ranges, volcanoes, icy plains, deserts, demon lands, devil lands, wretched lands, spirit lands, rivers, and oceans. Mountain ranges, volcanoes, icy plains, deserts, demon lands, devil lands, wretched lands, spirit lands, rivers, and oceans. That's right, Yang Qi said. Every plane of existence has inconceivable immortal worlds. I'm sure it's the same in the Yuanlu plane. Congratulations, my lord. You've become an immortal, and with your immortal class energy arts, you've surpassed most ascendants. Right now, I only have the divine body, but my cultivation level is not yet that of an immortal. I'm still at Feather Transformation Realm level 10, but the aura of a breakthrough is surging out continuously. Once you absorb the spiritual root, you can immediately step into the fairy realm. You will also cross the first calamity stage, second calamity stage, and third calamity stage in a short time. You will surpass the half-body realm and become a virtual immortal. Virtual immortal. The transcendence immortal realm is the virtual immortal realm, which is also the first realm of the immortals in the great world. Ascenders come to the great world, condense their essence, and purify their marrow, forming an immortal body. Really? Virtual immortal. So this was the first realm of immortals. A green demonic shadow suddenly appeared from the immortal fog in front of him. "Kid, are you all right, Senior Rock King?" Su Fangda asked excitedly. King Greenfeather smiled. "I'm fine. It's only been a month since I became an immortal. When you didn't show up, I got curious and decided to take a look. Boy, from here on out, we have to be very careful." "Why?" "This is just the exit of the Ascension Pool," King Greenfeather said. "We haven't even entered the greater world yet. There are already over 100 ascendants waiting at the border. The Undying Turtle and I have been keeping an eye on them. If we find any of them with treasures, we'll definitely try to take them. There are no real immortals controlling this place. I heard that immortals have to wait 100 years to get to the exit of the Ascension Pool. Right now, it's only been 10 years or so. There are no immortals in here, so killing could happen at any moment." "Don't worry," King Greenfeather said. "All we have to do is wait patiently. If someone tries to cause trouble, we're not pushovers." Who could have guessed that King Greenfeather would reveal such shocking news? Like a basin of cold water, Su Fang's hopes for the greater world were ruthlessly extinguished. Halfway through, they met the Lord of Five Poisons, the Undying Turtle, Li Haojia, and Bai Ling. When they flew out of the immortal fog, they saw over 100 immortals sitting cross-legged on the rocks. Of course, most of them were below the rocks. The ascendants who could step on the rocks were all terrifyingly strong. The 6 of them didn't join in the fun to avoid getting into trouble. At the border of the immortal fog, they leaned against the walls and sat in rows. Immortal pills are the best resources right now. You don't have to worry about not having enough. It's enough for us to use for a while. We can think of ways to get more in the future. I still have a lot of resources from the greater world. Everyone secretly took out their own resources. Su Fang and Li Haojia had the most resources, followed by the Lord of Five Poisons. Su Fang alone had the most resources. He gave each of the immortals 10 pills, and also warned Li Haojia not to undergo tribulation. If he did, it would attract trouble. Just like that, the 6 of them distanced themselves from trouble. From time to time, they would run into some ascendants who would eventually perish. Most of the energy arts in this minor world can't be cultivated. Only the boundless Taoist magic and the Sage Emperor God Origin Scripture can be cultivated. The Heaven Devil Codex, the illusory Fire Cloud, and the true enlightenment of Misty Mountain are all immortal class energy arts. However, the most important one is the 9 Yang 9 transformations. Year after year passed. The 6 of them distanced themselves from trouble and continued to grow stronger, solidifying their immortal bodies and building up shocking amounts of immortal power. The power of immortals was called immortal power and could be considered true energy. However, it was tens of thousands of times stronger than true energy from the mortal world. I never would have guessed that my fusion with a minor cosmos immortal kettle would reach such a high level. Back in a minor world, I could only reach the 5th level. But before long, I'll be able to fully fuse with a Tao item. This is one of the greatest transformations of immortal ascension. The Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda is now at the peak of the royal grade, as is the Star Daylight Sword and the Flame Cloud Spirit Gourd. Once I leave the Ascension Pool, I'll upgrade all 3 to the immortal grade. As he cultivated his energy arts, Su Fang continued to fuse with the various magical treasures. His overall strength was rising at an insane rate. Whoosh! All of a sudden, he sensed some familiar fluctuations. Looking deeper, he found that his 15th Yang Meridian had formed, and that his 14th Yang Meridian was pouring Yang power into it. With his 15th Yang Meridian, Su Fang's overall strength was further strengthened. It seems the birth of the Yang Meridian has nothing to do with immortal ascension. Immortal ascension turned me from a mortal into an immortal, and I'm 100 times stronger than before. Based on these transformations, I should be able to form more yang meridians. But now, yang meridians are connected to cultivating the 9 transformations. The amount of yang power one cultivates determines the amount of yang meridians one can form. Pure true energy alone can't do anything to the yang meridians. He focused on cultivating his 15th yang meridian, and his cultivation speed increased once more. Furthermore, he was absorbing the immortal chi from the ascension pool at a speed that was almost as fast as when he had been cultivating in the minor world. What was going on? Why was the speed so shocking? Only after carefully sensing it did he realize that it was because of the world fragment. The golden lotus stone flower rotated twice as fast as before. Going from a mortal to an immortal, Su Fong was 100 times stronger than before, but the golden lotus flower was only twice as fast. From this, one could see how difficult it was to cultivate the world fragment. Just this one-time increase allowed the world fragment to absorb the true energy in his body, and Su Fong's rate of absorbing immortal chi from the major world exceeded everyone else's. The world fragment was transforming bit by bit, and Su Fong had reached such a shocking height. That's right. After becoming an immortal, will I be able to enter the Origin Saint realm and see its true appearance? Will I be able to meet the mysterious senior? Suddenly, with an expectant smile, he peeled off a strand of his primordial spirit. It flowed along the surface of the Origin Saint realm's mirror and dripped into the mirror like a drop of water. At this moment, he came to the familiar red world. When he landed, he suddenly realized that he was still under shocking shackles, but it was slightly better than before. He could move his wrists and fingers slightly, and he could also take a small step. At this speed, he couldn't possibly find the secret of the ancient mirror. Is the ancient mirror really a legendary divine artifact? Extremely helpless, he could only release his consciousness to sense the mysterious woman. All his previous fantasies and expectations were ruthlessly extinguished. Half an hour later, the mysterious woman's 9 chi swept over with familiarity. So you become a fairy. You're indeed a talent to step into the macro world at the 10th level of the feather transformation realm. Since ancient times, there have been very few people who have achieved as much as you. Every one of them has become a supreme master or a king in the macro world after ascending. You will also become a supreme master in the macro world in the future. Su Fong was extremely modest. I still have many things to work on. Senior, since I've come to the major world, can I meet you and let the 2 ancient mirrors merge? This question had been brewing in Su Fong's mind, especially after he ascended. After a while, just as Su Fong was feeling anxious, the mysterious woman's voice slowly came. Do you think the major world is very small? Do you think I'm just an immortal? If you want to merge the 2 divine artifacts, you can't just become an immortal. You're just a lowly existence in the major world now. Do you know how many powerful realm lords, immortal emperors, and sovereigns there are in the depths of the major world? Senior means that I can only see you after I become an immortal emperor, sovereign, and realm lord. When you reach that realm, you won't need to ask me. You'll know when we can meet and under what conditions. Yes, Junior still has one more thing. Senior, I used heavenly tribulation to continuously cleanse my body and then attacked the world fragment, the golden lotus stone flower. Finally, I was able to merge with this treasure. I didn't expect that merging with it would allow my cultivation of Su Fong to undergo such a huge transformation. I can even move at the same speed as immortals in the minor world's starry sky. My control over the stars is also on par with immortals. You're really resourceful. No wonder you were able to become an immortal in just 600 years of cultivation. Only a few people have been able to do that since ancient times. The world fragment is a peerless treasure. It's something that every powerful immortal wants after becoming an expert. Through the world fragment, you can stand together with the stars of heaven and earth. As you cultivate in the immortal realm, you'll slowly understand the mysteries of the world fragment. This is your karmic luck the strength you obtained through your own efforts. You should be proud of yourself. With such a world fragment, I can't predict how much you'll accomplish in the future. I hope that the next time I see you, you'll be even stronger and not just have 15 young meridians. The mysterious woman suddenly disappeared. Senior, who could have guessed that she would vanish with the energy of 9? Obviously, he knew that he wouldn't be able to get her to show herself again. After leaving the primeval Chaos Age realm, he merged back with his true self and continued to cultivate his energy arts and fuse with magical treasures. Chapter 867. 10 years seemed to have passed in the blink of an eye, but it was actually very slow. First, he wanted to see the Yuan Lu Great World. He wanted to walk out of the Ascension Pool. What was left was cultivation. The 6 of them took every opportunity to strengthen themselves. They absorbed the immortal spirit bodies in the Ascension Pool, cleansed their immortal bodies, and condensed immortal power. Fusing with the spirit root was only the first step. The spirit root was also known as the immortal root. After fusing with the spirit root, a very important part was to cleanse the impurities and true chi of the small world, swallow them, and expel them. Then, they would condense immortal power in the golden core. Other than Li Haojia and Su Fong, the 4 of them were virtual immortals. They had become true immortals. They still needed to condense immortal power. It was estimated that they would not have enough immortal power in the next 10 years. If they could not gather enough immortal power, they would die when they went to the Yuan Fortune Great World. Who knew what was behind the Ascension Pool? It was probably time for it to open soon. Many cultivators gathered at the highest mountainside. Su Fong was stunned. I did not expect there to be more than 300 immortals here. Hundreds of immortals have ascended in 100 years. It seems that many cultivators have successfully come to the Great World. At that moment, the Lord of 5 Poisons, Green Feather King, Li Haojia, the Undying Turtle, and Bai Ling all stopped cultivating. After everyone got up, they naturally controlled the immortal spirit chi around them. Moreover, everyone was as light as a swallow. There were no more shackles. If they returned to the small world in this state, they would be able to kill any immortals from the lower world. Even the 7-star child and immortal master Lung Xian would have to accept their fate. The few of them approached the crowd and quietly followed behind the group. Bai Ling said mischievously, "There are so many people of all shapes and sizes. Demonic Dao, evil Dao, and even demon immortals." Su Fong was secretly surprised. Why do I feel that some of them have the aura of our star domain? Don't all the cultivators here come from the Heaven Dipper world? The little heaven and earth immortal pot said, "Master, I know a little about it. I heard from immortals that the Heavenly Abyss Ascension Pool is extremely huge and mysterious. It is located at the peak of different galaxies in the small world. It seems that many spaces inside are connected. Some ascenders mistakenly enter other passages and enter different ascension pools. I think this is the reason why ascenders from other galaxies came here." "I see." Su Fong suddenly felt relieved. Actually, he was still worried about encountering other ascenders from the same star field, especially enemies. Buzz, he waited for about a year. The immortal formation above the ascension pool suddenly shook. The sound was like thunder, shaking many ascenders to the point where they couldn't resist, bleeding from their 7 apertures. What a show of strength. Suddenly, a circular door appeared at the edge of the celestial realm, and it spread out like a wave. Celestials walked through it, and there were about 30 of them. Li Haojia was shocked. Why are these immortals so powerful? They feel completely different from the immortals we met from the lower realm. This is the great world. Immortals can naturally release their true power. Immortals from the lower realm don't have immortal chi. Every bit of it is wasted. How would they dare to waste it? The Lord of 5 Poisons replied. Following the appearance of over 30 immortals, the scene suddenly fell silent. However, some of the ascenders stepped forward one after another. This made many cultivators understand that these ascenders definitely had a strong background. Behind them was a force in the Yuan Fortune Great World. As expected, about 50 ascenders were the first to leave the ascension pool, making the other ascenders envious. Then, Under the influence of the immortals, they began to line up and accept the registration. Perhaps they were differentiating between the diabolical path, the righteous path, the wicked path, and the shifters. They all knew what to do. Su Fong also used his diabolical chi and turned into a diabolical path cultivator. He wanted to change his appearance, but the immortals used a power similar to the truth mirror. It could prevent the cultivators from using the bone transformation skill. The shifters could not hide their identities, and the diabolical path cultivators could not disguise themselves as righteous path cultivators. So strict. Among the six, only Su Fong and the Lord of Five Poisons changed their names. The others began to accept the registration with their real names. Su Fong turned into the free and unfettered True Devil. When he was accepting the registration, he encountered the immortals' shocking power. However, he could not tell that he was a righteous path cultivator. After he entered the nightmare demon blood transformation, his demonic nature had already seeped into his bones. The exit of the Ascension Pool is a vast wasteland. Once you pass through the wasteland, there will be a city that will take you to the immortal realm closest to the Ascension Pool. There are conditions for taking you to the immortal realm closest to the Ascension Pool, and those are Tao treasures, immortal stones, or spiritual items. You can obtain spiritual items and immortal stones from the wasteland. I wish you all a smooth journey into the immortal realm. Once you leave this place, you will be free from the mortal realm and become an immortal. Let's go. After the immortal finished speaking, the other immortals immediately controlled the circular door. Swish, swish, swish. Regardless of whether the ascenders were willing or not, they had no choice but to enter the door and leave the Ascension Pool. The six of them also followed the last wave of immortals and left. In an instant, the world's power, spirit chi, shackles, and cold auras were crushing toward everyone. Everyone looked at their surroundings, trembling. They were no longer in the Ascension Pool. Instead, they were standing at the bottom of a mountain ridge that was almost frozen. Around them were skeleton-like ice ridges that kept extending forward. No life could be seen, and no hope could be seen. As for behind them, it was a stretch of immortal fog. That was the Ascension Pool. More than 200 ascenders found it difficult to take the first step. However, some still chose to be realistic and flew across the sky. Others also began to activate their Tao artifacts. Iran chose to move forward. Kid, come here for a chat. Most of them were still waiting to get used to the Yuan Fortune Great World's aura. It was best to cultivate here first and only leave when they had a certain amount of immortal power. Suddenly, a few immortals walked over and stopped in front of Su Fong. It turned out that they were immortals who had ascended from the demonic Tao. One of them had a full beard and wore a black robe. He did not take out his Tao artifact, but his immortal aura was enough to shatter any attack. He smiled coldly at Su Fong. You are a demonic Tao cultivator. Join us. At least we can take care of each other along the way. Thank you for your kind intentions. However, I still have a few friends here, so I won't trouble you all. Su Fong cupped his fists and refused. The bearded demon continued. Follow us and leave this wasteland. The more people there are, the better. We understand this wasteland very well. From here to the Ascension Pool City, there's a large amount of wastelands. Chew. Secretly snatching Pai's resources? Ping Bandit Qian Qian? Rich mercenary? Huh. Surnamed Pinga? Coincidence? Neodymium? Clap? Cut. Wasteland? Su Fong resolutely refused. We will be careful with every step. However, everyone still feels that it is better to go slowly. We still want to cultivate here for a few more years. We are worried that we will bring trouble to everyone. You don't know how to appreciate favors. Huh. Several demonic Tao experts bare their teeth and then turned to leave indifferently. Green Feather King glanced at those demonic figures. These people are up to no good. The undying turtle smiled. Of course, they're going to persuade others. I am afraid that if we follow them, we will really go on the road and never return. They quickly quieted down. When most of the cultivators had left, they set off together. They did not fly too fast. It took them a day to cross the first ridge. Behind the ridge were more connected, desolate ridges. Some were sealed in ice, like giant monsters hibernating, ready to break out of the ice at any time. The further they went, the colder the aura became. From time to time, everyone's defenses would be frozen. Moreover, blood began to appear in the air. Forest, it's a forest. After 2 years of trekking and bumping along the way, they finally saw no more desolate ridges but a forest. They had consumed too many resources along the way. There were no resources in the wasteland, but the forest was different. There was life in the forest, and where there was life, there were resources. Perhaps the forest had the wastelands that the demon mentioned. Chu. Fu Chu. Zheng. Huan. Xing. Guating Luo Junwei. Koei. We have consumed a lot of resources along the way. Let's split up to collect spiritual liquids, fruits, and the like. The immortals are right. Every blade of grass and tree here is of great help to us. The Lord of 5 poisons and everyone came to the forest. After discussing for a while, they split up to search for resources. Resources were the most important. Su Fong released the flaming cloud spiritual gourd and opened it to collect the spiritual water on the leaves and plants. He also tasted some. After entering his body, it indeed brought about waves of impact. In particular, there was a kind of white and red immortal fruit that was extremely rare. He did not know if the fruit could be eaten, but the fruit secreted a kind of liquid that dripped into the ground and formed a small stream. It gave people a feeling that it was not simple. After spending a while to collect it, they also tried this kind of spiritual water. The effect was much stronger than the spiritual water they collected before. They also saw some fish appear in the stream. After collecting enough spiritual water, they walked for a while and saw a fruit tree full of immortal fruits. That fruit tree was simply full of fruits. Spiritual light flickered, and waves of fragrance wafted out. Just smelling it made one feel refreshed. Su Fong immediately rushed up and used his hands to pick the immortal fruits. Suddenly, some vines grew out from behind him. There were quite a few of them. They wrapped around Su Fong, and Su Fong did not notice them at all. It did not seem simple. The vines gradually wriggled like snakes, wrapping around Su Fong's hands and feet. However, Su Fong still did not notice and continued to pick the immortal fruits, because in his eyes, there were immortal fruits in front of him, and the surroundings were also filled with the fragrance of fruits. There were no vines. Buzz! The vines were about to engulf Su Fong. The dragon-taming tree's left arm moved slightly. Su Fong, who had just picked a fruit, found that there was nothing in his hands. The fruit suddenly disappeared and evaporated into thin air. When he looked at the fruit tree in front of him again, there was no fruit at all. It was clearly a tree root covered in thorns. The roots turned into vines and were about to devour him. Moreover, a shocking demonic aura was emitted from the tree root. Everything before was an illusion. Then how did I unknowingly fall into an illusion? Suddenly, he felt as if a sharp sword was hanging in his heart. He sensed that he was surrounded by vines formed from astonishing roots. If it wasn't for the consciousness inside the dragon taming, would activating its genuine chi and causing a commotion that affected his body, he wouldn't have noticed at all. Illusory fire cloud. Pooh! A burning cloud of fire burst out from Su Fong's body with the speed of a thunderbolt. Creak! Creak! Ayo! Ayo! The fiery clouds weren't simple at all. They had shocking celestial-level strength, and they also caught the tree monsters off guard. Immediately, the tree roots cried out miserably, and large amounts of vines were burned. At this moment, Su Fong did not appear. Instead, he hurriedly released his surging primordial spirit's divine prowess. Everyone, be careful. This is not an ordinary forest. The tree demons can control their consciousness and set up an illusion array. What everyone is seeing is just an illusion. Detestable ascension? Bragging prize sniper? Difficult? Yu Zigua Guanghui Pime? Scatter sniper? Wanyu? Wan Xianhuang Guji? Flowing field. The tree roots that were buried in the ground in front of him suddenly jumped up and grew into sharp wooden swords, which rushed toward Su Fong. Chapter 868. There are no magic treasures to use. I can only use Dao artifacts here. Any king-grade magic treasure will be shattered by the tree demon's attack. The small universe immortal pot can only defend. Seeing a large number of wooden roots flying towards him like a torrential rain, Su Fong began to use the fire cloud steps and used the fire cloud wings, releasing even more burning fire clouds. Trapped in the Trent's attack, Su Fong wanted to use his magic treasures, but he did not have any. The starry daylight sword, the flaming cloud spirit gourd, and the black-yellow six paths pagoda were all king-grade treasures. The small universe immortal pot could only defend. After dodging, he was hit by a few wooden swords on his thigh and calf. The tree demon attacked, allowing its roots to surround Su Fong. The wooden swords were everywhere, and it was impenetrable. He dodged a wave of attacks, but the following attacks were difficult to dodge. Fire Cloud Sword Chi. After forming a seal, both of his hands grabbed a large amount of burning sword chi. Shio, 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 shio. It exploded in the surroundings, creating waves of explosions. Even so, the wooden swords continued to condense from the roots. I have to use my strongest state, blood transformation true body. Taking advantage of this opportunity, before the wooden sword arrived, Su Fong unleashed his true strength. His body was wrapped in blood patterns, and an evil aura burned. Haha, it's useless, it's useless. Immortals like you who have just ascended are the weakest essence immortals. You can still be considered an earth essence body. Haha. There was a burst of noise. The ground beneath his feet suddenly split open, and a few more tree roots appeared. The attack was even more shocking. Puff puff. After the tree demon roared proudly, a few abnormally fast attacks turned into wooden swords that pierced Su Fongda's legs and lower abdomen. Moreover, it pierced straight through Su Fong's body. Blood dyed the sharp roots red. Su Fong seemed to have been set up and treated like a barbecue. Blood dripped down like oil bubbles. Suddenly, the tree demon's killing voice sounded from the surroundings. A cultivator like you is too weak. You don't even seem to have reached the essence immortal realm. That's right, you don't have any essence immortal bright marks in your body. I didn't expect that there would be such a cultivator from the mortal realm who stepped into the great world and came here through the ascension pool. My physical body is incomparably powerful in the mortal realm, but here it is. Looking at his body that was releasing the blood transformation true body, there were more than a dozen wooden swords piercing through his body. The pain was so excruciating that his brain felt like it was being torn apart, and his body felt like it was being sliced into pieces. ZZZ was shrouded in blood tattoos. His body had just been pierced through by the wooden root sword. A large number of lotus-like blood tattoos perfectly wrapped around his body. A burst of devil chi exploded. 2 bloody horns protruded from his body, and his entire body seemed to be made of blood without any skin. Blood transformation true form. I can't feel any pain, and I can't feel any injuries. So what if the blood transformation true body, with the ability of the Black Lotus true body, is so terrifying? Even if my body is torn apart, I still have countless bloodlines and Black Lotus blood threads to support me and replace my blood channels. Su Fongda was overjoyed and shocked. It turned out that stepping into a great world, condensing an immortal body, blood transformation true body, and corporeal body would reach such astonishing heights. His hands formed a seal, subduing dragon with left arm, innate earth divine might. Swish, swish, swisha, large number of vines that looked like the heavenly gourd spirit tree suddenly emerged from the wound on his left arm. Then, vines grew out and immediately wrapped around the wooden root swords that pierced his body. All of this happened in a flash. The tree monster might have thought that Su Fong was already under its control, and even if he didn't die, he would be severely injured. However, at this moment, it suddenly realized that there was something in the roots. The tree monster exclaimed in disbelief, You actually grasped the wood divine might, and it's so terrifying. No wood divine might in a small world can be used so shockingly in a great world. Su Fong coldly entered his blood transformation true body state. His 2 bloody horns were as sharp as blades. What about me? I can't feel any pain now. I have already reached the perfect with divine might state. Also, my aura has perfectly merged with yours. You can't kill me. Shameless boasting. Watch me tear your body to shreds. Pa path roots that pierced through Su Fang's body suddenly shook. More wooden swords came from the surroundings. This time, they were aiming for Su Fang's heart and head. Kill. Unexpectedly, from the vines gushing out from Su Fang's left arm, even more vines were peeled off and shot toward the wooden sword. Pa both sides used their wood divine might to fight in midair. Natal divine might, pure yang divine might, devoured demonic aura. He blocked the wooden swords alone. At this moment, he seized a rare opportunity to activate the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. The wood divine might began to explode. He then used his pure yang divine might to activate his right arm and fused it with his natal magic treasures with divine might. Some of the vines pierced through and cut off the tree monster's roots. He started to absorb the heavenly gourd spirit tree's energy, just like back in the heavenly gourd domain. The main thing is that I have to come out and immediately save Master from danger. Inside the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, the big goblin was worried about Su Fang. The Zhu Emperor was furious. After all these years, the dignified Pig Horse King was also convinced by Su Fang. It had completely submitted to this peerless expert. Therefore, when Su Fang was in danger, it naturally had to protect its master. I've already started to absorb the tree monster's energy. Next, it will be completely absorbed by my dragon taming with left arm. When it reaches a certain level, it will be able to completely suppress the tree monster and absorb all its energy. Su Fang, on the other hand, remained calm. In fact, he had not used all his means yet. If he released 6 big goblins that had transformed into demon immortals, it would not be difficult to kill a tree monster. At this moment, there were waves of tremors in the forest. Su Fang and the tree monster were fighting. Both sides attacked each other with vines and roots. From afar, it looked like a big tree monster was going crazy. To deal with the tree monster's attacks, Su Fang could use all his energy to activate the wood divine might and let the dragon taming with left arm absorb the tree monster's energy. The absorbed energy increased Su Fang's vitality and immortal power condensed in his dantian. His empty body welcomed the pure immortal power that the tree monster had cultivated for countless years in the great world. It was with divine life, immortal power. Although it also contained terrifying demon chi, he also cultivated demon chi. This amount of demon chi was not a problem for him. I can break through to the fairy realm. At first, I thought I was going to die here today. After encountering such danger, I never expected that the tree monster would be absorbed by the dragon taming with left arm. As this continued, Su Fang found that the energy in his body was boiling. As a result, he began to counterattack, releasing more vines to entangle the tree monster. It was not a powerful attack, but a large number of roots. The tree monster was a demon immortal and was naturally powerful. Unfortunately, it did not have any magical abilities and could only use its own strength to attack. Its attack power was terrifying, but it could not completely cut off the vines and roots released by Su Fang. A part of its body began to entangle tightly. More energy entered Su Fang's body. My energy is actually being absorbed by your body. Are you a human or a demon? In the end, the tree monster felt that a large amount of energy was being sucked into Su Fang's body. Su Fang did not show any mercy. No matter how much energy he absorbed, he used it all to deal with the tree monster. His body trembled. Tree monster, you have met your nemesis. Damn it. Tut tut, the tree monster slipped away. The part of the tree that emerged from the ground drilled into the depths of the earth. If it wanted to escape, it would escape. A part of its body was still entangled by Su Fang. Su Fang spat out a mouthful of divine light. Doctrine artifact, go. Suddenly, the small universal divine pot appeared above the tree monster. Then, it released a large amount of shackling power, which turned into chains. As Su Fang condensed his magical power, a huge chain of divine light pinned a part of the tree monster to the ground. The small universal divine pot finally came in handy. Su Fong continued to activate the dragon taming with left arm, greedily absorbing the energy. He began to condense part of the energy into energy seeds, which could be absorbed by the elites later. Boom, boom, boom. About the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, a large explosion occurred in the denser forest ahead. Blood-colored immortal glows and book shadows were flashing in the midst of the explosion. Su Fong was stunned at first. Then he was overjoyed. The blood curse heavenly book is Li Haojia. Good. He is the big goblin's nemesis. That's why he activated the elemental suppression and monster transformation heavenly book to deal with the tree monster. It was impossible for others to make such a big commotion. Only the monster catcher could do it. Li Haojia was an expert in dealing with monsters. Even Su Fong was not as good as him. Seeing this scene, Su Fong heaved a sigh of relief. This tree monster is really powerful. It can control such a large forest. So it must have been hiding in this forest, using its own aura to blend into the natural aura. Those spiritual liquids and fruits are all stained with its aura. Once it enters a cultivator's body, it can gradually control Su Fong's mind, controlling the cultivator without anyone knowing. Boom! The stalemate lasted for a while. In the depths of the turbulence where the blood curse heavenly book appeared, there was a shocking explosion. It came from inside out and engulfed the forest in an instant. It covered everything and sent rocks flying. Su Fong activated his defense. At this moment, the tree monster no longer had any power to fight with Su Fong. It fell from Su Fong's surroundings. The explosion disappeared. There was a large pit in front of them. It was about 1 mile wide. The forest within 5 miles had been razed to the ground. Whoosh! A rock appeared in the sky and then transformed into a human figure. Bai Ling also jumped out from the ruins on the other side. Then, the Lord of Five Poisons also flew out from the ground. Su Fong returned to his normal state. The wounds on his body began to heal. When he joined the others in the sky, he looked down. Li Haojia was using the blood curse heavenly book to control a wriggling tree root. Under the tree root was a big turtle. There were many corpses around the big turtle. Boom! The big turtle suddenly breathed out demonic smoke. It was the undying turtle. It slapped the tree monster and cut the tree root in half. I have never suffered such a great loss before. The undying turtle probably fell into the tree monster's illusion trap and was eventually dragged underground by the tree monster. As for the corpses, most of them were white bones. Some of them were half-rotten. These should be the ascenders who had passed through this place. They did not expect that at least a few hundred people had died in the hands of the tree monster. Brother Fong, it's yours. Li Haojia nodded at Su Fong. Su Fong flashed and arrived above the tree monster. He shot out a large amount of vines from his left hand and wrapped them around the tree root. In front of the experts, he absorbed the demonic aura and condensed many energy seeds. He handed them over to the others. Oh, this is the tree monster's spirit pearl. It's good stuff. Our strength can rise to another level. In less than 5 minutes, the tree monster died under Su Fong's methods. A green bead the size of a bowl appeared from the shriveled tree bark. A spirit pearl, the tree monster's true essence. Let's go. We will find a place to cultivate, break through, and become stronger. Then we can go to the city. They had really found a treasure. After absorbing the spirit pearl, they immediately flew away from the ruins with the others. They went deeper into the forest and found an uninhabited cliff. Su Fong divided the spirit pearl equally. Everyone took a portion and started to refine it together. It's time to transcend the tribulation. Li Haojia waved at Su Fong. It turned out that he was going to break through to the flying celestial realm at the same time as Su Fong. The two of them went over the cliff and arrived at the hinterland behind the mountain. They cast a barrier and summoned 6 big goblins to protect them and cultivate around them. After a while, Li Haojia was the first to transcend the tribulation. The flying celestial realm's tribulation surged from the sky. However, its aura was not ferocious. It only covered half a mile. If they were in a small world, the flying celestial realm's tribulation would definitely cover an area of 5 miles. Chapter 869. Tribulation clouds surged from the sky and shrouded Lihaodia. Then, some huge lightning bolts began to tear the sky apart. Some burning energy appeared like a storm as the lightning bolts tore the sky apart. Su Fong, who was suppressing his tribulation aura, was shocked. The Great Tribulation of the Fairy Realm is also known as the Doomsday Calamity. It's really powerful. Even the lightning bolts and earthen fires are not even 1/10 of it. The Doomsday Calamity. He believed that Lihaodia could survive this tribulation, but he was still worried. This was because the Great Tribulation of the Fairy Realm was not just a tribulation like the lightning bolts and earthen fires. Other than strength, it also tested one's mind and willpower. The reason why the Doomsday Calamity was so terrifying and many Ascension Realm cultivators would fall here was because of its strength and the terrifying Illusion Tribulation. Once the Illusion Tribulation appeared, it would affect the cultivator's willpower and primordial spirit. Once the primordial spirit was not strong enough, the willpower would collapse and the body would be destroyed. The first, second, and third tribulation were even more terrifying. Su Fong also began to cultivate the Great Tao Struggle. Although it was not a cultivation technique, it was a Tao text that could calm the mind and nourish the heart, allowing one to strengthen their Tao heart. He also began to learn more about the Doomsday Calamity from the Lord of Five Poisons. After about a month, Lihaodia finally succeeded in surviving the tribulation. The rolling, tearing tribulation left. After stepping into the fairy realm, Lihaodia's entire body was emitting a tribulation aura. This was the most obvious mark of a tribulation, allowing cultivators to easily see his cultivation level. Su Fong took out an immortal pill and fed it to Lihaodia. Seeing that he was fine, it was his turn to go through the tribulation. In order not to disturb the others, Su Fong stayed further away. When he released his strength, it was proven that his decision was correct. When the Doomsday Calamity arrived, it formed a shocking lightning bolt that tore the sky apart. This was several times stronger than Lihaodia's tribulation. It was obvious that there was a huge gap between the two of them in some aspects. He ordered the big goblin to protect him in the dark. Then, he looked up and saw the huge lightning bolts tearing the sky apart. Even the space of the great world was torn apart by terrifying black holes. Such a great tribulation. I must resist it in my strongest state. Unknowingly, he was already in the middle of the churning heavenly lightning, and the surrounding space was constantly cracking. Seeing such terrifying tribulation power, Su Fong immediately released his invincible golden body, condensing his most powerful defense. On the other side, he also started to attack, using his flaming cloud palm prints. Doomsday was in a cross-legged position in the sky, like a slowly rotating millstone. It felt like the Su Fong below would be crushed into meat paste by this huge millstone. Chi-chi. Suddenly, hundreds of ripping heavenly lightning bolts containing all kinds of tribulation power shot out from above and around it. Even the sky trembled at this moment. At this moment, Su Fong also unleashed a large number of fire cloud palm prints, attacking in all directions. Boom, 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 the heavenly thunder and the fire cloud palm print clashed together. The heavenly thunder was like a poisonous snake hidden in the depths of the sky. It was either blown away or shattered by the fire cloud palm print, but it continued to pounce and launch a new round of attacks. Moreover, the tribulation power from the natural disaster was like a mountain, invisibly pressing down on Su Fong, greatly affecting his senses, true chi, and divine abilities. Su Fong was completely surrounded by the tribulation power of the natural disaster. If he was careless, he would be killed by the heavenly thunder, and his bones would shatter. The natural disaster, the shackles, and the shattering of the sky. The natural disaster was extremely terrifying, and the heavenly tribulation would not disappear if it was shattered. Su Fong had become the only beam of light in the heavenly tribulation. He was completely surrounded by the power of the natural disaster, and he was trapped in the great tribulation. Tut, tut, tut. It seemed like he was about to be engulfed, But Su Fang's true qi was abundant, his methods were extraordinary, and his strength was powerful. He began to use the world god's might, continuously shaking off the heavenly tribulation. This ability was shocking, and the heavenly tribulation was blocked by him again and again. However, the seal in his divine aperture and mind suddenly released oppressive sound waves. It turned out that the natural disaster shackles had an invisible pressure on his primordial spirit and young infant, directly entering his mind and crushing his defensive barrier. Once the barrier was crushed, the power of the shackles would directly attack his divine aperture, and then the young infant inside. Young infant originally, after entering the great world, the young infant would transform. After entering the virtual immortal realm, the young infant would be called the young infant, and it would be stronger. However, Su Fang was still immortal, so his primordial spirit was still in the lower world state. The pressure of the primordial spirit started to make him suffer. If Su Fang had the cultivation of a virtual immortal, he would not have to worry about this pressure. However, the main point was that he was in the great world, a corner of the immortal realm, but his primordial spirit was still at the level of a mortal. One could imagine how difficult it would be to deal with the great tribulation formed by the great world. At this moment, he finally understood why Li Hao seemed to be seriously ill after passing the tribulation. Heavenly Demon Disintegration Seal. He could not wait for the pressure to attack the barrier in his mind. He clenched his teeth and released his divine aperture's Dharma power, activating the Heavenly Demon Disintegration Seal. A large amount of primordial spirit separated and came to the bottom of the barrier. He started to cast a large number of primordial spirit seals, continuously strengthening the barrier. His physical body had to withstand the attack of the natural disaster, and his primordial spirit was suppressed. His body and mind were both greatly tested. This was the first time Su Fang encountered such a situation since he passed the tribulation. In the past, all the great tribulations were based on strength. However, after entering the flying immortal realm, strength and willpower were combined. Not only did he need a strong physical body, but he also needed a strong primordial spirit. Under the explosion of the Heavenly Demon Disintegration Seal, a large amount of primordial spirit separated and used a powerful technique. Although his young infant was still at the level of a small world, his primordial spirit was extremely strong. Now that he had immortal power and immortal body, he still reached the level of a virtual immortal. He focused and did not think about anything. 7-star child, immortal master Lung Exen, Huang Lingyao, Sheng Changsheng, the purple cloud Dharma spirit, Prince Shui, and the others did not exist. They only thought about passing the tribulation. This was the concentration of willpower. The more he concentrated his willpower, the clearer it would be. Naturally, he would not be affected by the natural disaster and would not be affected by it. In this state, more than a month passed unknowingly. When a large amount of primordial spirit appeared outside the barrier and the shackles began to weaken, Su Fang's willpower relaxed slightly. He sensed his surroundings and realized that the natural disaster's aura was disappearing. He had successfully passed the tribulation. The most important thing in the great tribulation of the flying immortal realm is perseverance. Perseverance in one's physical body and willpower is the key to victory. He heaved a sigh of relief and stared at the great tribulation of the doomsday. The legendary mirage tribulation did not appear. The sect master said that mirage tribulations usually do not appear during the great tribulation. Instead, they appear during the first tribulation, second tribulation, or third tribulation. Once the mirage tribulation appears, it is equivalent to the appearance of a great tribulation of life and death. He thought that the great tribulation of the doomsday would stay for a period of time, like the great tribulation of the wing transformation realm. However, as Su Fang's physical body began to receive the impact, the great tribulation of the doomsday began to disappear at an amazing speed. His physical body shattered. The impact spread from his head to the soles of his feet and his entire body. After a full cycle, the great tribulation of the doomsday completely disappeared from the sky. As for Su Fong, he still had to receive the remaining impact. He was also very tired, but he looked much better than Li Haojie. After all, his physical body and primordial spirit were stronger than Li Haojie's. After more than 10 days, Su Fong finally ushered in a transformation. Although it was obvious, it was not as great as when a mortal stepped into the great world and transformed into an immortal. After stepping into the flying celestial realm, his body and the surface of his body were full of the Great Tribulation's aura. He had to suppress it. Otherwise, anyone could see through his cultivation. He covered his physical body with the immortal aura and suppressed the Great Tribulation. He began to fuse with the power of the tree demon that he had killed before, as well as crazily absorbing the essence of the great world. The essence that he absorbed was different from that of ordinary cultivators. Ordinary immortals absorbed the spiritual chi of heaven and earth in nature. However, Su Fong absorbed the essence of the world and hid it in a deeper world, passing through the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. After all, he had accidentally obtained the golden lotus stone flower, a fragment of the world, and was able to fuse with this treasure. He had passed countless immortals and was able to start cultivating the great world at the mortal realm. His power surged. After recovering a little, he came to the ground and gathered with everyone. He used the great world's might to gather the abundant and clean essence of the great world. He absorbed and cultivated with everyone. After reaching the flying celestial realm, Su Fong also fused and cultivated all kinds of magical powers and techniques. He also fused with all kinds of magic treasures on a deeper level. About 5 years of cultivation passed in a hurry. Everyone felt like it was still best to hurry to Extradition City. Fortunately, everyone's strength clearly increased during this period of time, so they moved together again. After passing through this forest, they unexpectedly encountered a wasteland. It turned out that the forest was separated by the wasteland one after another, forming a complex environment where the forest and wasteland intersected. Not long after entering this wasteland, they suddenly sensed an extremely shocking blood energy. Su Fong activated his Great Circle ability, able to sense the activity within 5 li. He really did discover something, vaguely sensing a few waves of demonic energy currently being released from the depths of one side. That should be Huang. Foundation, he reminded everyone that they could only be cautious, quietly crossing mountain ridges one after another. When they were about to leave the wasteland, they discovered that there were actually some monsters walking at the edge of the forest where the wasteland merged with a brand new forest. They were like wolves and dogs, their savage auras countless times greater than wolves. Moreover, their bodies were zhang in height, taller than humans. There were quite a few of them as well, roughly several dozen of them. Huang. Foundation, there was no doubt now. That was a fiend immortal. There's no way to avoid them. These wastelands? Imperfections planted, falling brush, chang zheng, huai, by insect, sand spear, made huai, feed. The group looked down from the top of the mountain. The Lord of 5 Poisons voiced his thoughts. We can only ambush Huang. Chi, back flounder Huan, by Ming, slow poppy chow you. Frame, waiting is indeed not a solution. Green Feather King also agreed. Stalemate, waiting is not good for us. What if more Huangs appear? Chi, charming and strong support. Sifan School, true love gown is identical to Chi. Using you mountain to fight by Yinda Bai Ling, undying tortoise, and Su Fong also didn't have any objections. Unfortunately, they could originally cross through the air, but they had just entered the great world, their cultivations too low. They could only fly for a short period of time, unable to fly for a long period of time. After arriving in the great world, even the supreme beings and giants of the small world like them were reduced to such a state. They couldn't help but sigh. Su Fong summoned the Wooling Goblin. It released its main body, wrapping around the group, bringing the Mahjong underground, starting to slowly advance. Having just entered the great world, the powerful Wooling Goblin also became a child that could break bones with a casual touch. If it was a little stronger, it could completely silently sweep them through the depths of the earth without being noticed by Huang. Smart frame boom boom boom. The wooling goblin that swept them away was telling everyone that they were about to enter the forest. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a shocking tremor suddenly exploded above him. Huang, extremely intelligent? Two Huangs, boasting about kissing cherry blossoms. Huang Wang Yo, stupid word she. Ding. There was a rumbling sound. Let's go. Soul, sword, heavenly lord. Green Feather King shouted, taking the first step. An immortal sword shot out from the palm of his hand, entering the immortal stone. In an instant, sword light flashed. With a swoosh, it unexpectedly killed a Huang. Foundation also a second Huang. Gathering birds? The author's words. I wish everyone a happy Mid-Autumn Festival. Chapter 870. Kill. Lord of Five Poisons, Immortal Tortoise, Bai Ling, Li Haojia, Su Fong, Wooling Goblin. Following Green Feather King's powerful immortal sword, the two desolates above the opening were killed. Porcelain coins? Are you trying to scare me? Plentiful and plentiful sand. Oh, Aohu would have thought that as soon as he jumped out of the pit, there were already more than 10 desolates pouncing at him. Huh? Traitor to the throne? How can you be so steady? You are so small. Thou artifact. These great experts were not here to fight. At the moment of life and death, they all took out their Tao artifacts. Streaks of immortal radiance magical light shot out, striking the desolates one after another. Clusters of pine trees and swan trees. Huang? Gluttonous? My nephew is in danger? Receding carries? Fang Xiong Sai, Seal Huai Lai. What's the point of wearing a feather? Relief? Bin? Folding the Lord of Five Poisons suddenly exclaimed, Retreat to the forest. Waste. Chuangyu? Burnt? Suburbs? Overflowing with grace, everyone looked towards the mountain ridge behind them from the corners of their eyes. Sure enough, there were over 1,000 desolates. Monsters from the countryside? Isthmus level? Chifu Boyu Children's Workshop? Base if they were really surrounded and killed, they would be in deep trouble. At such a critical moment, Green Feather King stood up once more. This king will cut off the rear. You guys kill. This king can hover in the air for a short time. Once you enter the forest, this king will dive down and meet up with you. I can fly too. Bai Ling was not convinced. Since you can fly, Sister Bai, why don't you fly into the forest first and scout the way for us? Seeing Green Feather King step forward bravely in the face of danger, Su Fong was extremely moved. Immediately, Green Feather King activated Lord of Soul's word with all his might. Now that he was a monster immortal, his power was 10 times greater than when he was in a minor world. Whoosh, 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 after the Soul Monarch flapped his wings, the Soul Sword Heaven Monarch charged at the dozen or so desolates around them. Flounder Badger? Jiangxi disease, the Sword Chi swept out, creating a bloody mist. If there were even higher level immortal stones, then killing these desolates? Emperor Jing swallowed quietly. Luan Igao Lanyang? Old wounds are afflicted? Luo Ao Green Feather Monarch embedded another immortal stone, while Heaven Monarch Soul Sword slashed out another semicircle. The previous sword strike couldn't kill Huang? Call the Imperial Chef, #shedding like a bandage? Base, let's go. Su Fong, the Undying Turtle, Li Haojia, the Wooling Goblin, and the Lord of Five Poisons immediately rushed into the forest. Bai Ling also showed her advantage. She showed her true self in midair and saw a desolate beast coming from the forest. Scandalous? What? Sisyphus curatage medicine. There was also a wasteland in the surrounding area. Broken porcelain? Mortis and 10x class? EE salivates and posts run wild. Pa. The Undying Tortoise punched out twice. The Lord of Five Poisons released a poisonous scorpion to attack the two desolates. Gather mulberry leaves? Lemon cigars? Pie? The Wooling Goblin also turned into his true self and ran wildly on the ground. He turned into a stone tail and waved it like a fan. Breaking the palm sister Huan Shuo, Jia, the most powerful one, was still Li Haojia. Waves of blood curse fire. Only Huang? Broken porcelain? Looking for Bad Qian? Bad Qian Lao? Qian? Tube, ugh, dazzling light. It didn't seem to be as powerful as Bai Ling's chaotic fire, but the blood-cursed fire wouldn't disappear and would continue to pester Huang. CIG blinked. Sheet snatch ping hui hai one boom. One, desolate. Window, Oi Zhao sang. Happy Qian Lao. The undying turtle was the first to enter the forest, followed by the Lord of Five Poisons, Li Haojia, the Wooling Goblin, and Su Fong. As for the green feather monarch, he was able to pester hundreds of desolates with the help of Heaven Monarch Soul Sword. The situation was urgent. Everyone rushed into the forest and ran into the depths. They thought they would be safe after entering the forest, but they didn't expect a large number of desolates to come from the surroundings. Buying me? Jom? You? Badger by? Shackled goblin by? Frame, they didn't know if it was bad luck or bad luck. Everyone ran and entered the depths of the forest. They didn't expect to see a ruin in front of them. It seemed to have been formed not long ago. Everyone came to the ruins, and then there were desolates around them. Meow, Chin, dazzling light. There were probably close to 100 of them, and some even dragged their corpses. It seemed that they were hunting in this forest, but Su Fong and the others broke in just like that. The Lord of Five Poisons urged the Five Poisons monsters one by one. Dense forest, desolates, bed change, handcuffs, gentle and graceful back. Idler by, Jilon stepped on by buckets, play, you hoop, meow in danger, by San, roar, desolates around, kitchen tricks, Idler by San, you with several masters immediately exploded their Taoist artifacts and used their own abilities. They rushed up one by one. Bai Ling appeared in midair and spewed out sword chi. After a while, Green Feather King also flew over from the forest behind according to the plan. When he landed, he even killed 2 desolates. Zhu Tang Ji Lin Bai. Green Feather King turned into his original body and urged the Soul Sword Heavenly Monarch to seed desolates. Pure and simple calling hashtag, sincere worship, and calling number 6 willing to DUI, Huang punishment, Tai Huang punishment, steal back, stew. The undying tortoise also used its true ability, using its dual blades. 2 immortal blades hit desolates. Bang, Shi Huang, Ji Sheng, Huang Ji Huang. The undying tortoise also opened its mouth and spat out a wave of demonic chi. Desolates? Hasty Huang Ji Fu. It was probably a combination of minor heavenly cycle, inner breath, universe, great technique, and innate divine ability to produce such a powerful killing move. After killing it, it was unwilling to give up. Like Green Feather King, it swallowed the corpse. Li Haojia was not far away, vigorously urging the origin, suppressing monster, transforming heavenly book, using the power of blood curse to shackle the desolates. Piao Huang, Ji Sheng, everyone used their killing moves to kill desolates. Piao Huang, Ji Sheng, Piao Huang, Huidu, Beigitong boom, boom, boom. The forest behind them suddenly shook. There were actually thousands of desolates. Piao Huang, Piao Huang, Piao Huang Lai, Ao Huang Hao, Piao Huang Chong, Fu Toad Frame this time. The Lord of Five Poisons opened his eyes wide, revealing a look of fear. Su Fong suddenly soared into the sky. There is no other choice. Seniors, you all enter the artifact. Sister Bai and I will fly into the sky and escape towards the depths of the forest. We should be able to avoid this disaster. Okay, everyone nodded. Activating the minor heaven and earth immortal pot, the Wooling Goblin, the Undying Tortoise, the Lord of Five Poisons, Green Feather King, and Li Haojia were all drawn in. Su Fong was left alone. She jumped up. Bai Ling accurately carried Su Fong and jumped into the air at the first moment, rushing towards the depths of the forest and mountain range ahead. Rumble, desolates? What kind of fetish does immortal engraving have? Immortal engraving bird? Immortal engraving deer, engraving for Dai Sang? Immortal engraving hui old fresh? Immortal engraving? Immortal engraving beach with bad, or moreover. Bai Ling's speed was faster than Green Feather King's. It was probably because Green Feather King's body was too big, and Bai Ling's body was small, so she was more agile. Can you beat me? She actually shook him off. Moreover, Bai Ling's speed was faster than Su Fong expected. Gradually desolating? Creating jade? Suitable? Kissing jade? Admonishing? Seed? School? A dusk, rank jade barrier? Yusu Chai? LVG after a full hour, Bai Ling's speed became slower and slower. Finally, she could not take it anymore and fell into a mountain range deep in the forest. Su Fong took out an immortal pill and fed it to Bai Ling. Then, she released the Lord of Five Poisons, Green Feather King, Li Haojia, and the Undying Tortoise. After experiencing so many life and death situations, it was as if they had been reborn as humans. Unexpectedly, they had just left the Ascension Pool and had not even gone to the Yuan Great World, and they had already encountered 2 life and death situations. If it was not for their luck and strength, they would have died here long ago. From the looks of it, a portion of the hundreds of Ascenders would probably die here, while those Ascenders with backgrounds could go to the Ascension City without any worries. They would not have to experience these dangers. At this time, all the experts had turned into stone statues, standing still and cultivating in the depths of the mountain range. After a full half a year, the 6 of them continued to go out. Their strength had recovered, and some had even improved. Everyone was still flying at low altitudes. After flying out of the forest, they encountered a few small wastelands. They also saw some desolates. From white cherry blossoms, badger engraving instant Emperor Qian, illness. After almost 10 years, they finally walked out of the forest. In front of them was a vast land. At the peak of the mountains, there was a huge stone gate. Ascension City. Su Fong and the rest were very happy. As everyone rushed over, Su Fong also suggested that they let the Undying Turtle and Bai Ling enter the Dharma treasure space first. They did not know if the Ascension City was dangerous. The Undying Turtle and Bai Ling had no objections. Only Su Fong and the other 3 continued forward. After a few days, they finally flew at low altitudes and arrived at the foot of the mountain where the stone gate was. There was a stone path that led to the stone gate at the end. Yuan Great World Ascension City. At the entrance of the stone path was a waxy, yellow spirit stone. There were a few deep, immortal words carved on it. Everyone started to walk. It was not tiring, and they could enjoy the scenery around them. They could calm down and look at the great world. From time to time, winged demon immortals would approach the mountain range, but they would quickly disappear. It looked like the Ascension City was not safe. However, to be able to scare away demon immortals, there must be an expert guarding it. After half a day, everyone finally stepped over the last stone step. In front of them was an ancient stone gate that was 10,000 feet tall. Behind the stone gate were more than 10 palaces. They were somewhat dilapidated, cold, and desolate. There were no immortal guard around. Everyone carefully entered the city walls. They saw some immortals appearing from time to time. There did not seem to be any control here. After asking around, Su Fong finally found one of the most majestic halls among them. After entering, he saw many familiar faces. They were the immortals who had left the Ascension Pool with them. There were about 200 of them. Su Fong asked the 3 of them to rest in a corner. He entered the inner hall alone. It was empty inside. There was only one immortal inside. If you have something to say, just say it. That immortal could tell that Su Fong was an Ascender. He directly waved his hand and said coldly. Su Fong said politely, "I have arrived at the Ascension City. What's the next step?" In a while, many forces in the Yuan Great World will come here to recruit people. Ascenders like you will be taken away once you are chosen. What if you are not chosen? Then you can only rely on yourself to leave the Ascension City. The nearest immortal world to the Ascension City is tens of thousands of miles away. Our Ascension City can only provide this. We will not protect you when you leave. If there are no problems, go down and wait. Many thanks. Su Fong knew enough from these few short sentences. He also understood that if he continued to ask, the other party would become impatient and not give him a good attitude. If that was the case, he should leave as soon as possible. When he came to the corner and chatted with the three of them, it was like a bucket of cold water had been poured over him. He had not expected to see such a situation in the Ascension City. They did not have a choice. Since they were all waiting here, they might as well wait together. During this time, they chatted with some Ascenders and learned more about the Ascension City. It turned out that there were representatives from the various major forces in the Yuan Great World. They were stationed here all year round and cooperated with the Ascension City to select Ascenders from the higher realms to cultivate in the Yuan Great World. However, those envoys would only come once every 100 years. The Ascension City also had some peddlers and immortals. They were here all year round to trade with Ascenders from the lower realms, hoping to obtain treasures from them. Su Fong felt bored and left the hall with Green Feather King for a while. He let Green Feather King and the Lord of Five Poisons continue cultivating here. He had thought that there was only one immortal in the Ascension City. Of course, there were more. From time to time, powerful immortals would appear. Chapter 871. Of course, he did not come out with Green Feather King to have fun. He came to ask the immortals about the faction behind Holly. He asked many immortals, but none of them knew about the Hua family. However, an old hunter happened to know. However, he needed some benefits, so Su Fong gave him a lot of immortal stones. The old hunter told Su Fong that there was only one Hua family that could rise to fame in the Cloud Fortune Great World. They came from Jinwu Villa. Jinwu Villa was a sword-forging cultivation faction. They were very influential in the Yuan Great World. They created a large number of flying swords and sold them to different merchant associations or factions. Therefore, they had a deep network in the Yuan Great World. Tens of millions of years ago, Lifter City was considered a trading ground. At that time, Jinwu Villa had set up a faction here. However, as time went by, the other factions in Lifter City left one by one. They would only return once every 100 years. The old hunter had a deal with Jinwu Villa in the past. He happened to hear about the Hua family. The Hua family had a high status in Jinwu Villa. Su Fong thought that Jinwu Villa would also send people to Lifter City this time to select disciples. However, the answer he received was that it was impossible. It turned out that Jinwu Villa had not sent experts to Lifter City for millions of years. Clearly, they had given up on this place. The reason made Su Fong speechless. It turned out that there was more than one ascension pool in the Yuan Great World. This was just one of them. If Jinwu Villa wanted to recruit disciples, they would not necessarily come here. They also learned that the journey to Jinwu Villa was very long. It was impossible for the few of them to reach that place. Even if it was possible, it would not be possible without hundreds of thousands of years. Su Fong figured out the location and direction of Jinwu Villa, as well as the powerful factions around it. After returning to the main hall, everyone waited quietly. Fortunately, they did not have to wait for too long. It was about 10 years. Powerful immortals came one after another. The immortal from Lifter City led more than 100 immortals in different attire to the main hall. These people were from the Yuan God Great World. They were the representatives of the factions closest to the Ascension Pool. The hundreds of Ascenders were very excited. They gathered in the main hall for the immortals to start selecting. This was the first time Su Fong and the others had seen so many powerful immortals. Naturally, they were not in the virtual immortal realm. After all, virtual immortals were as lowly as mortals in the great world. Among the forces that came, only one or two of them were major forces that were famous in the Yuan Fortune world. They began to choose, and after selecting more than 20 people, they soared into the sky and left. The remaining powers began to make their selections one by one. They came from cultivators, immortals, clans, and empires. They recruited disciples, servants, soldiers, demon hunters, and even servants. After waiting for half a day, more than half of the Ascenders were transferred away. None of the four from Su Fong were chosen. The representatives of the remaining forces waited for a while before they entered the inner hall with the immortals from Lifter City. Su Fong also pricked up his ears. It would have been fine if Su Fong hadn't heard it, but after hearing it, Su Fong felt a chill run down his spine. As it turned out, The remaining immortals came from several clans, empires, and merchant guilds. What they needed were servants to guard the gates, as well as hard-working soldiers who spent years in dangerous areas mining for treasures. They even gave some benefits to the immortals from Lucier City. That immortal walked out and shouted in front of everyone, "The remaining people will be divided equally among the four forces. After everyone arrives, they will all be disciples. In the future, you can cultivate in peace." This was selling out all the ascenders here. Su Fong and the others were not allowed to choose at all. They were divided into 10 to 20 people and continued to wait in the main hall. There were no restrictions on the ascenders' freedom. In fact, no one knew the truth behind this. Even if they knew the truth, they had no choice. Lucier City was about to close, and ascenders were not allowed to stay overnight. They could only leave with the envoys from these forces. "We must leave and think of a way." The Lord of Five Poisons, Green Feather King, and Li Haojia were furious when they learned the truth. At this time, they had no other choice but to wait in Lucier City. The next day, Su Fong continued to walk around with the three of them. There were still many forces that had not left, and some ascended immortals were also wandering around the streets. Li Haojia suddenly sent news that there was a discovery. When Su Fong rushed over, the Lord of Five Poisons, the Undying Turtle, and Li Haojia were waiting for him in a 3-story palace. It turned out that Li Haojia met more than 10 immortals here. They were recruiting people and were wantonly recruiting ascenders in Lucier City. However, no one was willing to do so because this was a mercenary group. And it was a mercenary group whose members were all injured. Mercenaries. They were very common in the Great World. They often worked for trade associations, ran errands for families and forces, and lived in the cracks of the Great World. Su Fong secretly sensed these immortals. None of them were virtual immortals. Although they were not very powerful immortals, they were strong enough to survive in the Great World. Were they not afraid of desolation, invading Tudu, Umbrella? Most importantly, these mercenaries were going to a force called Spirit 6 Immortal World. Spirit 6 Immortal World was a very famous immortal world in the Yuan Lu Great World. However, this was not the main point. The main point was that Spirit 6 Immortal World was very close to Jinwu Villa. Once they reached Spirit 6 Immortal World, it would be much easier to go to Jinwu Villa. At that time, they could use the Immortal World's teleportation door or other methods to safely reach Jinwu Villa. Originally, Su Fong planned to follow the forces that were previously assigned to leave Lucier City and go to the other Immortal World forces to think of a way. However, this mercenary group could help them go to Spirit 6 Immortal World. "We are willing to join." The four of them immediately went to the table and sat in front of a few dispirited immortals. These immortals were all tall and sturdy. Although they could have a foothold in the Great World, they were only slightly stronger than ordinary people. Their spirits were lifted, and that dispirited and gloomy expression immediately disappeared. Soon, a middle-aged man walked over. This person walked like a tiger, with high eyebrows and a square face. He was an expert. When he saw the four of them, he said happily, "Good, good. We are in need of manpower. This time, we're not on a mission, but on the way back, we encountered a group of demons and lost a few brothers. Now, we are looking for manpower. You don't need to be very strong. You just need to be in our mercenary group and be in charge of the daily chores." When Su Fong heard this, he represented the others and agreed. However, he had a condition. He hoped that they could leave Lucier City tonight. When a middle-aged man asked for the reason, Su Fongda said that they were chosen by a force and were being taken away from Lucier City. Su Fong and the others were not willing and hoped to leave as soon as possible. This reason was not difficult to explain. In the end, the middle-aged man agreed. The middle-aged man took out 4 immortal talismans. "I am one of the people in charge of the mercenary group, Tuoba Zhangying. Tonight, I will lead the group and wait for you in the distance. This is an immortal talisman. After you leave, you can activate it to find our location. The wilderness is dangerous at night, so you must be careful. Of course, if you don't come, you still have to activate it and let me know. We are just passing by Lucier City, so we won't be delayed because of you. Senior Tuoba, don't worry. We will come." Su Fong and the other three bowed to Tuoba Zhangying and left silently. Sir, I don't think these brats will be able to come. If they can come, then they will. We are also short of manpower. Tuoba Zhangying watched them leave. After some people raised their doubts, he was very calm. When they returned to the main hall, a few immortals asked where Su Fong and the others had gone. They were experts from a force not far away who were taking them away from Lucier City. They were just a small clan and could be considered a second-rate clan. If Su Fong and the other ascenders went over, they would only serve as servants and hired thugs. They would never be able to make a name for themselves. They did not expect that this time there would be an immortal watching over them. Su Fong and the others did not leave at all. When night finally arrived, Lucier City fell into silence. Sir, we have treasures to offer you. On one side of Lucier City, Su Fong, the Lord of Five Poisons, the Undying Tortoise, and Li Haojie quietly went to the immortal sitting on the stairs in front of them. He was not a virtual immortal, but an existence that surpassed virtual immortals. What treasures! The immortal deliberately lowered his voice and sized them up. His eyes were full of cold light. Su Fong said fearfully, "It's not convenient here. The treasures are not sealed, and we can only put them in the Tao artifact space in our bodies. Once we release them in the city, everyone will be alerted. We are offering you our treasures in hopes that we can follow you in the future. We don't have to be servants, and it would be best if we can get a good job. All right, let's see the treasures first." The immortal smiled for a while, then immediately signaled the four to keep quiet and led them out of the hall. When they arrived at Lucier City's gate, there was an immortal guarding it. The immortal greeted them and led them away easily. He released an immortal light and deliberately carried them over a mountain and into the depths of the forest. The immortal landed and stretched out his hand without hesitation. "Where's the treasure?" "This treasure is a Tao artifact. We found it by accident in the small world. Sir, you have to be careful," Su Fong said, and asked Li Haojie to go forward. Li Haojie slowly formed a seal, and under the seal, a Tao artifact, light of a spirit book, appeared. This Tao artifact, the immortal's eyes trembled when he saw the light. He saw that this Tao artifact was indeed extraordinary. At this moment, the immortal was completely attracted by the light of the Yuan, suppressing demon, transforming heavenly book. Su Fong suddenly slapped his palm, and a heavenly neck spirit ring suddenly flew out and hit the back of the immortal's head. Boom! The immortal's head exploded. Bai Ling separated himself from Su Fong's aura. "My good treasure, there's nothing to be afraid of killing an immortal like you." "Serves you right." The Undying Tortoise kicked the immortal's corpse and swallowed it into its stomach. "Let's go." Su Fong released the Xian Guang and sucked everyone into the Tao artifact. He jumped onto Bai Ling's back and soared into the sky. Su Fong, who was sitting on his back, quickly activated the immortal pattern. In just a few breaths, a few dazzling auras suddenly flew from the blurry Lucier City to the mountain range and forest where the immortal was killed. Obviously, the experts who came with the immortal had found them. Bai Ling flew at her fastest speed, either at a low altitude or in midair. The immortal pattern in Su Fong's hand also moved. A similar aura came from the depths of the dark earth in the distance. It was where the mercenary experts were. After flying for dozens of miles, Bai Ling was so tired that he could no longer carry Su Fong. He could only return to the Tao artifact space. Su Fong released the Lord of Five Poisons, Li Ziqing, and Green Feather King. Under Green Feather King's control, the four of them stepped on their flying swords and flew at a low altitude. Finally, 2 hours later, they met up with the mercenary experts on a mountainside. They rested until the next day. At the first glimmer of dawn, the three suns in the vault of heaven had just risen. The mercenary group took 4 people on their journey. Each of the experts took 1 person with them. They rode their flying swords at an astonishing speed and left this territory. This speed was nothing in the small world, but in the great world, Su Fong and the others were unreachable.